Hi everyone, Darren Hunter here, and welcome to my complete audio scripts. Now, this is a combination of a number of sessions I've done over several years. But I've also got a guide to 33 fees charged over Australia, New Zealand, and the United States. And that is for free. Just go to profitabilitymindshift.com. That's profitabilitymindshift.com. But anyway, the first part of the audio we're going to listen to are my 10 scripts, strategies, and methods to overcome the most common fee objections. You know, things like, well, you can match your management fee with the other agent down the road, or the other agent doesn't charge those fees, or the other agent will give a discount. Why can't you? How to overcome fee objections like that. So enjoy this session.
Let's have a look at 10 scripts, methods, and strategies that you can use to overcome discount requests. Now, I know what the fees are charged, certainly in Perth. And if I rang up your offices, there would be a consensus around, very consistent around the 9.35%, including GST. Congratulations, that's actually the best level of management fees that we do see in Australia. And Perth, in my mind, is very well known that if you walk into a listing presentation and the rent is $450 a week, you know, the average business will quote 9.35%. And if you go into a $2,000 a week rental property, then the management fee, generally the quote is 9.35%. That doesn't happen anywhere else because automatically the average office goes in and thinks high rent, therefore we better automatically come down from the management fee straight away. And so that's something that we see different here. When it comes to letting fees, we generally see around about the 2.2 weeks rent. Some people do less than that. Internet marketing fees are very mixed. Lease renewal fee, when I first started pushing this in Perth about 5 years ago, the average lease renewal fee was $44, $55, $66. I started teaching the 1.1 weeks rent lease renewal fee. 6 months ago when I did a session here with a room full of BDMs, 80% of the hands went up, are now doing 1.1 weeks rent. So that is a legacy that I put into play here around about 5 years ago, which some of you are now enjoying, and you're doing it simply because you saw your competitors doing it. But all the other fees, your routine inspection fees, your final inspection fees, your ingoing or PCR fees, your court representation fees, all your monthly admin fees, they're all over the shop. There would be no consistency across this room. The only general consistency there is the management fees and the letting fees. But it's all over the place. But it doesn't matter what your fees are individually in your office, that is the very, very, very best that you can do. Because if you're at $44 lease renewal fee, for example, and this guy up the front just said, hey, other offices have been for the last 5-6 years getting 1.1 weeks lease renewal, and you go, well, that ain't going to work. My owners would never pay that. That's why you can't get it, because your mindset says so. Your current mindset dictates what you can get. Now, for example, it works in the positive and also in the negative. I remember starting with a rent roll in 2000 in the Riverland of South Australia, and when I started with this particular rent roll, I looked at the fees and I thought, these suck. The first day I arrived, they were awful, they were cheap and they were nasty. It was a rent roll that had just purchased. I came in and said, this needs to change. And I doubled the letting fee. There was no lease renewal fee. I added in that. I added all sorts of fees, and also in South Australia, a final inspection fee had never, ever, ever, ever been done before. And I thought, well, I don't care about that. Final inspections are a lot of hard work. So I put in a final inspection fee. No one ever questioned me on it. All right, so therefore, the fees were here, and my mindset was above that. And therefore, the fees were then adjusted to my mindset. Does that make sense? But your fees will always only reflect your mindset of that or the boss, whoever actually established them. But also, that's in the positive. I just gave you a positive example. There's also a negative example first, where fees are at a certain level and then they get wound back by mindset. So I remember being called into an office a number of years ago to do a business health check, and I had a phone call prior to that. He called me up and said, hey Darren, I'm a sales principal. What does he mean when he said, Darren, I'm a sales principal? He's got no idea at all about property management, yet he's still running a property management business. That's scary, isn't it? Imagine running a business that you don't understand. It'd be quite dangerous. He said, Darren, I've got a problem. A year ago, we had 300 properties, and now we've got 350. We've had 50 net growth in a year, but my fees are $50,000 less now than what we were getting last year, and I do not understand. My property manager, I can't see the fog from the trees with her stories. Can you come in and investigate? Because I don't know what I'm looking for. And I thought, great, I love an investigation. I just love investigations. They can be so much fun. And so I went in, I put my X-ray goggles on, and started looking around and, okay, where's the scene of the crime? Yeah, the income's down. All right, there's the scene of the crime. Now let's have a look at evidence that's actually caused this. And I found this trail. And the trail led round here and came round here, and it led right up to the property manager. But it led right up to her head. It actually was her mindset. Because she believed she'd been with the company for a year, no coincidence, and she actually believed that the company's fees were a rip-off. So she was adjusting the fees to what she believed they were worth. In that market, the normal rack rate there in Adelaide is 8.8%. She felt that they should be worth 7.7%. She was winding the owner's fees back, and also she believed that 2.2 weeks rent letting fee in Adelaide, that's normal, she thought that was too high. So she was adjusting them back to 1 week. So the fees were getting adjusted to what she thought they were worth. Let's just say that her future was freed up after that. Now, I was in another office and there was a BDM on the phone. Oh, hi, Mr. Owner. Yes, that's fine. Yeah, look, we were able to help you with your rental property. Our management fee, yeah, we charge 8.8%, but that's negotiable. Yeah. You know what he was actually saying? Yes, Mr. Owner, look, my boss has said that we've got to charge 8.8% management fees, but quite frankly, I think it's a bit of a rip-off. So I tell you what, I think it's actually worth 7.7, so I reckon we'll adjust the fees to what I think they are worth. Your mindset, more than the market, dictates what fees you can get. And whenever I talk this, that little voice in our ear starts to speak and it says, but that can't work here because my owners are too tight. And that won't work here because, Darren, you don't know the discounters that we've got down the road. Darren, you don't know we've got an agency down south that does 9 or 10% all-inclusive. Darren, you don't know what's going on in our city. And I get every reason why you can't do it. You've got to understand is your mindset is your truth. That becomes true for you. And so right now, the very fees that you are charging, you cannot do any better. However, there is a formula that we can put into place if we are to get better. And this is a formula that I train in businesses. And I've worked with so many businesses across the world. And I get the same results whether I'm here in Perth or in Adelaide or Brisbane or Melbourne or New Zealand or Washington, D.C. or New Mexico or wherever. The principles all work the same. I've worked with businesses where we get an extra $3,000 a month. For the rent roll with the same amount of properties. I've got businesses here right now where I've just finished a deal with them. We got them a whole $250,000 extra over a year, roughly the same amount of properties they had before. So you can do better, but you've got to apply this formula, and this is a formula that we apply, that if you believe you're worth it, and then you know how to justify it, you'll get it. So if you believe that you're worth more, if you believe that you are worth what you are getting, you can't do any better. If you believe you are worth more, then you will. Understand the word believe. Who knows they're good at property management? Hands up. Okay, you see, you believe that you're good at it. You know that you're good. So I'm talking a know that you know that you know. It's a deep-seated belief and conviction that I can look at you in the eye and I can see that you believe you're worth it. And if you believe it, I will believe it too. So if you believe or know that you're worth it, and then you know how to justify it with a script or something like that, then you'll get it. And when it comes to overcoming discount requests, it's the person that has the strongest belief and conviction who are going to win the day. It is a game of persuasion. It is a game of negotiation because you work in real estate, therefore your fees are negotiable. And that is the arena that you have chosen to play in. So play it. It is just a game. And if you know you're worth it, and you know that, okay, Mr. Smith, I'm not able to give you a discount, and here's why, and you've got a really good story of conviction that that's the truth, and they can see that you believe it, they will believe it too. It's mindset. And I'm going to give you the tools now that you can do that. And what I want you to do is take these tools away. You're going to have copies of the PowerPoint already in the link that's been sent to you. And I'm doing a recording, so the people listening to the recording, you're going to have it on the actual download or the disc that you've got. But also, I'm giving you a lot more than that. In the same section where you're going to find the PowerPoints, you're going to find another brochure where I go even deeper, giving you a lot more background and psychology behind what I'm teaching you today. If you take that information that you have already got and you study it, I promise you, you're going to go to a whole new level. But if you leave here today and do nothing because you're going to be too busy tomorrow, then unfortunately nothing's going to work for you. Now, when you know or you learn how much you're worth, you'll stop giving people discounts. All right, because the fees are always adjusted to what you believe they're worth or what someone else believes they are worth, but they will be adjusted. Strong statement, isn't it? Now, let's have a look at discounting, because discounting in itself is a point of difference. But discounting is used as the main point of difference to stand out. Let's have a look at the cost of discounting. Because on one of my packs that we've advertised here, I've put down, there's actually 35 ways to stand out, or 35 points of difference there. In fact, there's 38. Every point of difference on there is far cheaper than discounting of what I'm about to show you. Every point of difference is completely cheaper. So if we had $400 a week rent, that's pretty fair where Perth is at the moment. Now, when it comes to discounting, understand the law of the main game. And the law of the main game is simply this, that when owners come together, when they look at fees, what they talk about, what they care about the most is usually the management fee. Is that right? And when it comes to a discount request, how much discount are they generally asking for? 1%? 1% generally? Sometimes 1.5%, sometimes 2%. Okay, but it's about 1%. Can we use that example? We're going to be conservative about this. Now, if you give a 1% at $400 a week, over a year, $4 times by 52 weeks is $208. You understand that? So we've just given away $208. Now, let's say we keep the management for 5 years before the owner sells or the owner moves back in. Is 5 years an okay example? Let's say it was 5 years. Then over 5 years, that's $1,040, just over $1,000. But 30 new managements a year, over 5 years, that's now pushed it out to $31,200. But what if you did that every year? Can you see my point? You have chosen the most expensive point of difference out there. On my pack, I don't know anyone that would even be thousands of dollars on there. But yet we go for the most expensive. Good point? Okay? You're just throwing away so much money. The alternative is that instead we learn scripts and you put into place what I'm about to teach you. I'm about to equip you with all sorts of things that you could use instead of pulling out that as your calling card, or resting on, or relying on, or putting confidence in that one. Forget it. Put it away. Let's pull something else out because you're worth it. Discounting is the most commonly used but the most expensive point of difference out there. Now, without an effective point of difference, what happens is this. Is an interesting principle comes into play. That if you don't really provide any difference, or if an owner says to you, well, how are you different? Well, we offer 4 routine inspections a year. We offer a multi-page PCR ingoing inspection report. And we take photos. Getting my gist here? And we offer good customer service. But what good customer service? We just offer good customer service. We answer the phone, return emails. What I'm saying is that if you're not able to come up with an effective point of difference, then in the owner's eyes, you just look the same. So you might be a blue brand as opposed to a green brand as opposed to a yellow brand, and that's the only differences. And once that happens, the owner will then reactively force or look for or focus on price. And if you then believe that all owners want discounts, perhaps you're a fee discount magnet, because you haven't got effective points of difference. Make sense? You're inviting it. You're attracting it. Now, any point of difference that you use must appeal to a key problem or desire. So let's say that Colleen is a new prospective owner and I'm trying to impress you with a point of difference. And Colleen, if you sign your management with us, we are going to courier to you every month your monthly statement engraved in gold. Now, okay, it's gold is pretty cool, but is that anything impressive? Not. Because who gives a crap? Really? But if it appeals to some problem or need or concern that Colleen has, now usually it's because you've got a vacant property and you're stressed about getting the right tenant, and so the big three that owners focus on at this point in time, their real concern is getting the best rent, the best tenant in the quickest possible time. And so your point of difference must be tapped into that. Make sense? For then Colleen to go, hey, that impresses me, I would rather use you over your competitors. That's the point of difference must relate to a need, pain, problem, and so you're putting ointment or cream onto that by using your point of difference and impressing them. Okay, now let's talk about overcoming objections before we launch into the strategies. And using scripts and dialogues, the effective use of scripts and dialogues can often be the difference between winning and losing the business. But they must be. So I'm giving you a whole pile of scripts now, and these are my scripts that I've adapted. You just need to understand the concept, the picture, the principle that we're explaining. Don't learn the words robotically, because it's got to come from you and your heart and your words and your style and your way and your personality. Otherwise, it will not come across as real. You will come across as fake, and they won't believe it, and now you won't be able to convince them. It's got to be believable. Carefully learnt role-playing and repetition works best when practiced. Repetition, because then you drive it deep into the subconscious and into the superconscious. The more it's role-played, because the deeper it goes, the more it's going to come out under pressure. When an army goes into war and the soldier, the fresh recruit, gets onto that beach and the machine guns are going off and the bombs and the mortars are going off and the fear just grips them like death, what comes out at that point is what they've learnt by rote. Their training then kicks in, their instinct then kicks in and takes over, and that's how they survive. Because the fear, when you're in a listing presentation and the pressure cooker and the fear, and you get, well, if you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, kicks in, and the fear is there, you only what you have learnt by rote and severely practiced is drawn out of your subconscious, and then you're just going to come out with it naturally, only if it's practiced. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, consider recording your scripts, listening to them over and over in the car. Everybody here has a sound recorder. It's on your phone. All right, listen to them, read them out in your way, listen to them over and over and over. But they've got to be made to sound natural, suit your style of language and personality. Let's move on. Now, I'm going to introduce to you another law. We talked about the law of the main game before. Now we're going to talk about the law of alternate cost. And the best way that I can describe this one to you is give you a story of how I was working with an agent in New Mexico. Now, I have a client there where I'm doing a profitability partnership where I help them increase their fees. We work on their mindset, get them to believe that they're worth more, and then we increase the fees accordingly. We then simply paid out of results, we're paid on performance. And that's generally how I do these things depending on the size of the rent roll. So I've got one in New Mexico. Last year, I started the deal with them. We're now well into a year with it. And we were in Vegas. I traveled down from Vegas to New Mexico after that with the principals and to do the training, the mindset training with the team to get their belief levels up first. And I'm training them new owner fees, They are a 10% management fee agency in a regional area of, I think, 100,000 people. And no one's ever charged a leasing fee, no one's ever charged a lease renewal fee, so that's what we're installing with that particular agency. Plus, we're increasing the application fee for the tenant. We're also going to be installing a lease sign-up fee for the tenant and a number of other tenant fees. And you're looking at me, what? Tenant fees? Yes, tenant fees, because that's what we do in the United States. There's about 100 different tenant fees that I cherry pick from depending on the agency. And you're looking at, why can't we do that here? Because you don't realise that we are one of the few countries in the world where the tenant is listed as a protected species, and you think that's normal. And that's indicative and a result of our consumer protection culture that we have here. And it's ridiculous because the protection is actually saying the tenant is poor and cannot afford to buy a property. That may have been 50 years ago, but not anymore. Anyway, gripe over, let's move on. Tenant fees are illegal in Australia. Are we clear on that? So I'm meeting with a property manager. He's actually the senior property manager, and he's got a little bit of an issue with me and charging a tenant the lease admin fee, the signing up the tenant. He said, Darren, I'm very uncomfortable with this because we're going to be nickel and diming our tenants if we give them this. I said, fair enough, let's have a look at it. And so in the training session, we pulled this apart. Okay, so let's talk about the lease sign-up. What do you guys do differently than the other agents in the area? Well, Darren, we're the only agents in town that go to the property and sign the tenant up there and induct them, okay? And so let's just say you're like everyone else in town. Sign them up at the office, give them the keys at the office, kiss them goodbye on their merry way. And he said, oh no, I'd have a problem with that. Well, why? And he says, well, because we show them at the induction how to relight the pilot light on the hot water service, they call it the water heater. All right, well, what's the problem with that? Well, then we'd have to send a handyman out. Okay, and what's that going to cost? He says $85. So who's going to pay that? Well, I have to charge it to the tenant. All right, okay, and what else? He says, well, the garbage disposal unit, we've got to show them how to do that. All right, and what's the problem there? It's going to cost $85 if they don't. Who's going to pay it? The tenant. Oh, so I'm writing $85. And what else? Is that we've got to show them how to change over the they got evaporative air conditioning units, how to change over the filters and stuff like that. Okay, if they don't do it right, the tenant's going to have to pay. It's going to be like $100. Before you know it, we had $500 worth of stuff the tenant's going to be up for if they are signed up at the office. You getting where I'm going with this? And so he could clearly see, oh my goodness, if we don't give them that lease sign-up, it's going to cost them $500. So we've now expressed the full enormity of what the alternate cost is if the service doesn't exist. And in that case, it's $500. And once we've expressed the alternate cost, then the $150 lease sign-up fee is now a bargain. But if we leave out the expressing of the alternate costs, we now run the risk of the $150 lease admin fee or lease sign-up fee to be a rip-off. Getting my point? Law of alternate costs. Most of your fees, you can use the law of alternate costs. With that in mind, let's move on. So, the law of alternate costs, using this strategy or method, is good for these types of objections if you can match the fee with the other agent down the road. The other agents can do it cheaper. What we need to understand, going with a cheaper agent, how can it be more expensive? How can it be more expensive going with a cheaper agent? They've got cheaper fees, therefore they're lacking resources. Yeah. What about if they're one of those agencies that just do photos on their marketing? And you've got your 360-degree tour that Dennis has just showed you. Mr. Smith, in this marketplace, which is pretty tough still to get good tenants, if a tenant sees all this marketing here, or they see an agent just with a few basic photos, who do you think they're going to go to first? So do you think then you could express doubt on particularly other cheaper agents without getting into exactly who they are? That you could be experiencing a whole different, longer, more painful, more costly vacancy period by going with a cheaper agent with a much less marketing fee because they've got much less beef in their marketing and video or whatever. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's have a look at that. Mr. Smith, I can see placing focus on some immediate savings might seem sensible to you right now. However, in my experience, going with a cheaper agent may cost you a whole lot more as soon as service becomes an issue, and also with a potential cost of $1,000 to $2,000 for extended vacancy periods. Let me explain. Or, Mr. Smith, yes, going with cheaper agents, but For example, with us, we are signed up to 2 national tenancy databases. And what that means is that if we have a tenant come along and is on a national tenancy database, we're going to pick them up. In fact, we are able to access over 6 million tenant default records. But the other agents, yes, they're cheaper, but they're either using one of those databases or none of them. Why? Because they don't want to pay for it. And you don't want the tenant from hell. It will cost you, it could cost you thousands and thousands and thousands. So though a cheaper agent may seem smart now, it may turn into the most expensive mistake that you've made. You're getting my point here? Expressing the alternate cost of going with cheaper. That's how we use it for strategy number 1. Now let's have a look at the hourly rate, strategy number 2. And it's good for these types of objections where they're really going after your hourly rate stuff or your tribunal or court or something like that, or your routine inspection fee. Congratulations, WA, you guys just get it when it comes to routine inspections. You believe you're worth it. You're the only state in Australia where it is accepted everywhere that you charge something for your routine inspections. Though all your routine inspection fees are all over the shop in this room. I know exactly. They'll be right down to $30, right up to 99, even more than that, 110 or whatever. Because that's what you believe they're worth. Therefore, you get it. Can you do a better fee or price? Another objection. But why do I have to pay for inspections? Or why does it cost that much? This particular strategy is going to work with those objections. Let's have a talk about understanding where you're placed, or what you should be charging with your hourly rates. And I'm not going to suggest to you what your hourly rate should be. But can someone help me in the room? For court attendance, who charges hourly rate fees? Hands up, please, at an hourly rate. So if I can just have some numbers, please. What do you charge for your hourly rate? $82.50. $82.50? 110? 55. 55. Any better takers in the room? Better takers? Thanks, Harry. 77. 77. Anyone else? 99. 99. Let's just keep on going with that. All right, we've got 55, we've got 110. Sorry, any more than 110 in the room? Straight 250? Okay, flat fee. All right, let's have a look at the real estate contractor chain. How much does a cleaner cost to get in to do an eviction clean? How much per hour or whatever? General cleaning, how much per hour? $40. You're at the higher end here, so up to about $40 an hour. Now, gardener, how much? In Perth, how much for a gardener? About the same? Yeah, about the same. Handyman, how much? 60 to 70. Alrighty. Plumber, how much? 80 to 90. Electrician, how much? 90 to 100. Plumber's a little bit more. Other places in Australia, generally the plumber's a little bit cheaper, the electrician's a bit more, but it really depends on the marketplace and the demand. All right, if I want to get a geek to come out and fix an issue on my computer, how much per hour? $6 million. Not that much. So how much per hour for a geek? 140 plus GST, 150, 160, that's about the going rate. Now, company accountants, $180 to $300 per hour. 180 is cheap. What about a lawyer? 350 plus, up to $600 or whatever, depending on their experience and all those sort of things. Did you hear me say whatever they're worth? Whatever their going rate is. Did you hear me say that? Whatever their going rate is. It's all different. So, we had some $55, $77 per hour in the room. I understand that. I mean, I really understand why would we price ourselves around about the same as a lawnmower man. I get it. Because property management is just so easy. I mean, seriously? There's hardly any legislation compliance that needs to come in. It's really, I mean, selling pies down the bakery is harder. Yes?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I agree with all of that. And
Thank you.
If you're going to charge me my management fee and it's higher than everybody else's, plus you're charging leasing fee, plus you're charging to do insurance claims, plus you're charging to go to court, plus you're charging for routine.
I'm going to answer that. It's not in my scripts. I haven't practiced it. I'm going to give it to you. All right? So this doesn't add value for you. So let me just get my head straight here. Okay, look, Mr. Owner, I understand exactly what you're saying there. Okay, so what's the management fee for? Look, I get that. All right. Look, we do charge those other things ad hoc because, look, the tenant doesn't just move in on time the same time every year. All right? There are fees that happen on user pays, but you don't know when they're going to occur. And because we don't know when they're going to occur, we keep them on a user pays basis. And doing so, we can keep our base management fee very, very low. Does that make sense? If we took those things that we're charging on a user pays basis and roll them in as part of the management fee, then we're going to have to inflate that up 14, 15, 16%. And that's something that you're not going to tolerate. So if you've got other competitors out there that are charging their 9.35 or 10% and including that in, the question is, are they actually doing it? Because they're really doing it for free. There you go. Now, I'm under pressure, all right? I've got to come out with that first time and save my face with you guys with my credibility. Why did that come out under pressure? Because it was repetition and I remembered it.
That back in 2006.
Yes, so that's repetition for you, okay, and practicing. So that was my pressure. It worked. All right. Now, moving on. So back to here, why have we rated ourselves at $55 and $77 an hour when the going rate for these trades is so much different? You're getting where I'm going with our mind. This is all mindset, people. It's all mindset. It's in your head. Property management is one of the toughest jobs out there. It is full of risk. My goodness me. We're out to dinner last night telling about this scary situation. And that agency was caught up in severe litigation for 3 years and pulled apart at coronial inquests. And the stress level for the boss, he had to give up his selling job just to attend full-time for a year all of the coronial inquests and court hearings. And then he got taken on civilly as well and sued. All right, you want to talk risk? Mate, this is a killer. Is that why we're charging $55, $77 an hour? Are you getting my point here? I've got a problem with that, and you should too. You've got to take yourself seriously out there when you're managing $50, $100, $200 million worth of real estate assets. Now, you work out where you sit here, but I honestly believe you shouldn't be rating yourself around about the lawnmower man. Okay? Getting my point. Mindset people. I'm a mindset trainer and I'm just playing with your mindset and just getting it to a better level. All right, moving on. How long does a routine inspection take? 20 minutes? All right, 20 minutes. Or what about travel, booking? All right, any follow-up work? Any work that's generated out of the routine inspection? What about getting the report all ready and emailing off to the owner? Brad Howard, that does outsourcing of routine inspections here in WA, says it's about 70 minutes. It's not 20. So what are you worth per hour? And here is my next challenge to you. If your plumber went out and changed the leaky washer, Richard, what's a typical washer job?
No pressure.
What's a typical washer job? A simple washer, change it, go out there, call out fee. What would be on the tax invoice, including GST? Typically. About $100. Alrighty? Most of you in this room would be scared in charging, for example, $99 for a routine inspection. But you'd have no problem at all sending a plumber out and an invoice comes in. You're not going to ring up the plumber and go, what? $100 for a piece of rubber? You've got to be kidding me. You pay it without question, and so you should, because that is their going rate. And the owner will pay it without question because he knows that's what plumbers are worth for that particular job. Does that make sense? And so you are the only people that have a problem with these hourly rates because your owners think, $55? Oh my goodness me, there's something wrong here. That doesn't sound like a going rate for someone of what you do. Does that make sense? It's all mindset. So that put aside, you work out what you should be charging, but in most cases in this room, you should be charging a hell of a lot more. You see how now we're working on the mindset that you're worth a lot more now than what you thought 5 minutes ago? Okay, now you can do it. If you believe you're worth more, you know how to justify that fee, you can do it. How much time for an ingoing and outgoing inspection, tribunal court attendance? Because if it takes an hour or 2 hours and you apply your going rate to it, now it's a lot easier to explain this to an owner why it costs so much if they complain. But if it's a normal hourly rate, they're not going to question it. All right, let's move on. Let's have a look at a sample script. If it's an inspection fee, you might respond, Mr. Smith, my plumber charges $99 just to go to the property to change a leaky washer. This routine inspection is so much more important than a small piece of rubber, provides so much more value, yet it's only charged at whatever. Does that make sense? Yeah. Your owners generally don't question this stuff. They make a bit of a song and dance around the management fee, if not the leasing fee. Alrighty? You guys are throwing and leaving so much money on the table, it's not funny. Especially the routine inspection. Alright, you might be an extra $120 per year now, just in extra routine inspection fees, and times that by all your properties, there's a lot of money there. This is the area that I specialise in. If you want to talk more about it and how we can help you, come and see me afterwards. If it's an insurance claim or final inspection, Mr. Smith, if we charged a true hourly rate for the service, you'll be shocked. How long does final inspection take? Right from when the tenant gives notice, all through to travelling to the property, doing the final inspection, doing all the hassle. How many hours right through to the bond refund? Come on, how long? 4 or 5. And you guys, even though you charge that $200, $250, $180 for a final, are you kidding me? It is a total bargain under cost, if you really do the numbers. Let's have a look at strategy number 3, and this is what we call the best negotiator. It's really good for these types of objections. The other agent will give a discount. Why can't you? Well, can you do a better fee or price? If they say the other agent's going to give a discount, why can't you? We are now borrowing classic sales scripts. So salespeople in the room, hands up. Guess what? Sales scripts work in property management, and I'm just going to prove it to you. So, this is a script here. Look, Mr. Smith, if the other agent was quick to panic and drop their fee just like that, what does that say about their negotiation skills to you? And in this market, the tenant comes along and wants you to negotiate your rent. What do you think they've just demonstrated they're going to do? That's why you need to have the best negotiator. That's why we need to be able to get the best fee for our agency. So you can get confidence that we're going to do the right thing by you. You guys feeling that little bit more confident? Yeah. Not having to pull out the discount card or anything like that? Here's the next one. Now, we can respin this one if they ask you to give a discount. It's the same deal, just spinning it a little bit differently. Let's do it. So, well, Mr. Smith, if we then are quick to negotiate our fee, what does that demonstrate then about our lack of negotiation skills? And if your tenant comes along wanting a discount, what do you think is going to happen? You need to be confident. You've got the best negotiator. Therefore, we do have to stick with our fee. Now, the cup of coffee. It's good for this type of objection. If you can match your management fee with the other agent down the road, particularly this one, because I find if you can match your fee with the other agent down the road is probably the biggest one people come across on a regular basis. Is that a fair comment? Yeah? Okay, so let's just really massage this one out and look at all the different angles that we can pull this one apart without having to discount. Now, firstly, we need to understand that generally it's about the management fee if they want a discount, and generally it's about the 1%. So let's break that down from management fee, 1% difference, or is it a 2% difference? Then the monetary difference, is it, for example, $3? Or is it in fact $4? Or is it $5? So if it's $500 a week, 1% is $5. If it's $400 a week, 1% is $4. We all good with that one? Okay. And then we turn it into an everyday consumable product that everyone can relate to, that just spends it every day or once, every couple of days or something like that. What is that? Now, a sample script, if he says, if you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, your response, well, Mr. Smith, I can see that you wish to use our services. Can we agree then that we'll be able to manage your property if we can simply just agree on price? Let's put the focus on price, because when they give you that line, if you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, you know what they're really saying? They're saying, I love you. You're so good at what you do. I just think you're great, and I know you're the right person to manage our property. We really love your agency, so that's not in question. However, I'm just one of those people that just likes to win, and I can't sleep at night unless I've got a pound of flesh or a pint of blood. I just got to have my win, and the other agent down the road, well, I don't want to use them, but they've got really, really cheap fees, and I just like to have my cake and eat it too. So if I can have your service and their fees, then I'll be happy. That's what they're saying. So it's a compliment. And so you need to play the game and return, look, Mr. Smith, I can see that you wish to use us. Happy days. Then is it just the price that we have to agree on? We're hoping at this point, is it just about, can we just then agree on price? We want a yes, because that's where we're spinning the question. Now, you've asked us to match our fee with that of the competitor. Do you understand, Mr. Smith, the actual difference between us and them is really only a cup of coffee a week? Did you know that? You see, most property managers don't know math very well. They don't know what the 1% actually is, and your clients don't know that either. You just need to reveal it to them and they go, oh, really? I didn't understand that. Now, that will work most of the time because some of your owners will go, hang on, that's an expensive cup of coffee over a year. Look at this figure. But it's going to work most of the time. And I can only hope with what we've demonstrated today that all of these points difference with our marketing and our videos and all of that sort of thing and get your property rented real quick, it's worth more than a cup of coffee. And look, if not, how about you come into my office once a week and I'll make you a cup of coffee. Because I can see you wish to use us. All right, put some light on it. All right, let's move on. Is that a good one?
Very good.
Okay, moving on. I like this particular meme here, and this is a session from my Washington, D.C. 3 weeks ago. If you believe that you need to charge the same as your competitors, it also means that you believe you've got nothing different to offer as well. If you feel that you need to look at what your competitors are charging and feel that you need to be the same, okay, good point, isn't it? Now, matching services. Oh, I'm getting excited now. I just really want to give you this one. Because I was in Vegas last year and I was being shown around the town by an agent called George. And George, he is not a typical American. Because, you know, a spade is an effing shovel to George. He is not a prim, proper and polished professional American. He is just straight down the line and I like it. He's nearly like an Aussie. And I said, George, how do you answer this? So this particular script is good for if you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, or the other agents can do it cheaper, or the other agent will give a discount. Why can't you? This is going to work really, really well. And I'm going to give you the prim, proper and professional version, and then I'm going to give you George's translation of it. Okay? Now, a sample script. Well, Mr. Smith, if you'd like us to match the other agent's fees, we also need to match their service levels as well. Typically, we hear of our competitors not returning calls for days, not attending to urgent repairs, and not returning emails at all. As we're unable to compromise on our level of service, we cannot compromise on the fees we charge for our services either, I'm sure you understand. So that's the script off the PowerPoint. Let me tell you George's version. So, okay, Mr. Smith, so what you're asking me to do is lower my fees. Is that right? Okay, well, if you want to match their fees, I've got to match their service levels too. You happy for your phone calls not to be returned? You happy for your emails not to get returned? What about the urgent maintenance? I'll make sure that there's a 14-day delay on all of those. Because that's what my competitors do. And if you want me to match their fees, it's only fair to lower our service levels. And I can't do that. That's not what we do. Therefore, we do have to charge you a full fee for a full, complete professional service. Do you like that one? Say thank you, George. Thanks, George, and I'll send you a copy of this recording, George. All right, now, competing on service. Oh, this is such a juicy one. This is one of the best ones in here. So it's good for these types of objections. If you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, the other agents can do it cheaper, the other agent is only charging 10%, all-inclusive, or 9%, or something like that. You guys can relate to those sort of discounts going around? I bet you can. All right, so this one's really good. Look, Mr. Smith, we're well aware of what other agents are charging. Did you know they also know what our fees are too? And despite knowing what our fees are, and because they cannot compete at our level of service, and because they've still got to win the business, instead, what they've done is simply adjusted their fees down to what their level of service is. It's quite honest, really, isn't it? Because you really do get what you pay for. All right, you like that one? Cool. Another one to put into the arsenal of weapons to learn by rote, so you can then bring it out under pressure. Now, what service do I leave out? So that's going to the one that you brought up. Strategy number 7, good for these types of objections. If you can match your fee with the other agent down the road, or the other agents can do it cheaper. The other agent is only charging 9%, 10%, whatever, all inclusive. So sample script. Look, Mr. Smith, to remove a portion of our fee out or do it cheaper, we also need to adjust and remove a portion of our services too. Whether it's tenant selection, chasing late rent or doing inspections, everything we do is essential to the overall management service. And as we must in all good conscience provide 100% service, we must maintain our fee structure as it stands in order to do so. Bit of a script. Let's just pull that one apart. But Mr. Smith, what you're asking me to do to lower my service levels, I have to also work out what I'm going to have to give you to do. All right, and what I could perhaps do is you can do the tenant selection and you can do the database checks. No, that's probably not going to work. With the routine, honestly, there's really nothing that I can take out of here because our industry is heavily legislated. We also need an agent's license to do all of those things. There's cost of legislative compliance with everything. We simply cannot slice up like a pizza our services to give you a cheaper fee. We really do have to charge a full fee to give you a full service. If you just believe what I've just said, and you say that with that belief and conviction to your client, they will believe it too. It's a game of belief and conviction. It really is. Is that cool? Is this going to win with everybody? No. We've got a script coming for those people in number 10. All right? How to identify a C-class owner. And you have to choose whether you value doing business with a C-class owner or you value keeping your quality staff. Let's move on. You know where I'm going with that one. Now, strategy number 8, using impressing with stats. And I just want to get through this one here. It's good for, I just want to know your fees. So when you get that phone call and the owner says, Rob, I just want to know what your fees are. I don't care about anything else. Who has phone calls like that? Okay, this strategy I've learned from Dennis. I think it's an awesome one. And very, very quickly to understand that your vacancy rate at the moment, what are they sitting at? 6%? Has anyone got a better vacancy rate at the moment than 6%? 4.2. Okay, well, in that case, a 4.2% vacancy rate. What's the occupancy rate of that, Dennis? He's not listening. So it's 95.7, 95.8% occupancy rate. Is that right?
So you reverse it around.
Yeah, is that right? So 98, I guess my math is probably not too good.
95.7% of our properties.
Yeah, so 95.7% occupancy rate. Now, if 3% of your tenants are behind in the rent 3 days or more, then that's 97% of your tenants have paid on time. Is that okay? Yep. So using that in mind, you've got your scripts here. If they call and say, hey, I just want to know your fees, Mr. Smith, I'll be happy to give you your fees. But firstly, can I ask you a couple of questions? Yes, you can. Alrighty, is it important to you that we get your property rented quickly? Is that the decision you're making on an agent is to get your property rented quickly and also for your rent to be paid on time? Is that important? It's a loaded question, isn't it? All right, yes, it's going to be important. Okay, Mr. Smith, when you're talking to other agents, just letting you know that 95.7% of our properties are actually occupied at the moment, and the average rate in the area is around about 92% occupancy rate. Ours is far better than that. 97% of our tenants last month paid the rent on time. It's really important that you understand those numbers because when you're speaking to the next agent, can you also ask them what is their occupancy rate percentage and also their tenants paid on time rate percentage as well. And if they can't answer that or they sound like they haven't got a clue, will you promise me you'll call me back? You see how you've loaded that? Okay, could that strategy possibly work for you in that situation? And Dennis, how did that work for you?
I've worked wonders because nobody ever tracked their vacancy.
No one does.
Days on market, so it was like the zero tolerance on rent arrears. Once I jumped on that, I would throw it at them and keep on throwing salt in the wound at every listing presentation I go to.
Yeah, well done. Okay, next one. Now, the greatest asset, very simply, it's good for this type of objection. Strategy number 9, the other agent will do it cheaper. Well, why can't you do it cheaper? Sample script. Well, Mr. Smith, when it comes to property management, it's a lot different than buying fuel, milk, bread, where you decide on a cheaper price because it's a consumable. What we do is much different, and we consistently receive new business from owners who initially gave their property to a cheaper agent to manage, realising the hard way that what they really wanted was peace of mind and to know that their property was in safe hands. I encourage you not to make this decision based on the cheapest fees when the real value is who can manage your greatest asset the most professional, competent way so you have the maximum peace of mind. Don't place your greatest asset in the hands and decide on the cheaper agent. Using the word greater and the word cheaper. And it really is peace of mind, people. As a property owner myself, when I really goes to the base of it, it's peace of mind. Guys, when you go to a barbecue and the owner says, what do you do? Well, I'm in real estate. Okay, what exactly do? I'm actually a merchant of peace of mind. I give people peace of mind. All right, because that is exactly what you do. You give people peace of mind and take on their stress and worry. That's why you get stressed. All right, now the cheapest agent in town. So, taking us to the end now, I'm one of those people in Australia that preaches a message that is different from a lot of other trainers. I honestly believe that we need to stop doing property management. We need to stop it. We need to renounce it. We need to say we are never ever going to do property management again. I want you to run from it. I want you to leave it. I want you to just run so fast. And what I want you to start doing instead is quality, profitable property management. There is a difference. Do you understand that? This industry cannot sustain the way that we have been doing property management, where any roof and front door is good enough. It's not. It needs more criteria than that. Amen. Because the job is hard enough. Do you just want to make it harder? Principals, do you enjoy having a big staff turnover? And really, really hard to find anyone out there that really knows what they're doing. It's very, very hard to find a quality property manager. And when they finally get and reach their expiry date, and they decide, I'm leaving the industry, one of the biggest reasons always is dealing with difficult owners, or the boss didn't care because he wouldn't remove the bad owner. The C-class owner is like cancer. And we really need to be avoiding these people from the onset. Very quickly, a C-class owner, over-demanding and unreasonable. You call them up with good news, they'll pee all over your parade. All right, they take up lots of your time. You get on the phone and it's like a 5-minute phone call with a regular owner. This one is an hour phone call, and you get off the phone, this guy just does my head in. And they send you 5-page love letter emails every day. Whatever the rent is, they just want more. They don't care about this sensitivity with market prices the way they are. They just want more, so it stays vacant. You don't get paid at all. Whatever your fees are, they just want less. They put little to no money into the property, therefore they have a crap property that just attracts a crap tenant, and it's crap all round, and you feel that you have to manage it. We want to avoid these people, so in our discussions, if you're starting to get an idea that this person is very, very fee dominant, you may have a C-class owner. And if you do, you really, if you're a quality agency, walk away. Let the sales principal agency down the road get burnt out with it. Let them do it, because they won't take anything with a roof and a front door. Okay, so with that in mind, here is our script. This is really good for, the other agent will do it cheaper. Why can't you do it cheaper? And here is the script. Mr. Smith, I can see through our discussions that perhaps you're looking for the cheapest agent in town, which we are not. We used to give out the phone number of the cheapest agent to save you shopping around, because it takes time calling up agents and all that stuff. So we used to give out the phone number, but we've stopped doing that because we had owners that then went to that agent, got upset because they got poor service as well, like surprise, surprise, and then they came back to us 1 or 2 years later upset and then willing to pay more. So we stopped doing that. It really comes down to what's more important to you. But I do know one thing, with all my experience that I've had in property management, there are such a thing as quality agents and cheap fees, but not in the same place. So at this point, what's more important to you? And that will help me with a decision of whether we can do business or not. And that really comes down to that point, whether you're one of those agencies that will take anything because you need anything, and now you are going to bring in that element of burnout into your rent roll and make your environment toxic like Mars, which is not fit for human habitation. And you're going to experience high burnout rates, and quality, competent, experienced property managers are far more worth than 1,000 of these people. Is that cool? All right. So, there's that script there.
Hi there, Darren Hunter here again. This next session is a live session that I've done in the last couple of years. It's a live conference session, so the audio is a little bit echoey, but it's my 9 scripts on how to overcome the most common objection you probably get, which is the other agent is cheaper. And the way I've put this together, these scripts are from other people that I've come across when on my travels over Australia, New Zealand, and the United States. And if I come across a growth expert, I like to ask, well, how do you overcome this common fee objection? The other agent is cheaper. So this is really the scripts that I've collected from around the planet. I know you're going to enjoy this one, get a lot out of it. Now, don't forget, if you want 33 owner fees charged across Australia, New Zealand, and the United States, we've got a free PDF download. Go to profitabilitymindshift.com. That's profitabilitymindshift.com. You can download it there. But also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast of the same name, Profitability Mindshift, and you can get that on iTunes Podcast, Podbean, or on Spotify. Anyway, enjoy the next session.
Guys, I'm all done. All right, you enjoyed today? Yes. All right. My name's Darren Hunter. Who has attended one of my sessions before previously? Hands up, please, or exposed to my training or whatever. Who's never heard me speak before? All right, so I'm here to give you all a feast, and I have a confession to make. I've been in property management. This is not a confession, but I've been in property management since 1989. That's 30 years in the industry now, so love what I do. And part of my journey as a trainer and consultant in the last 15 years, you tend to sort of gravitate towards areas of specialty. Just like a doctor, a GP, he may go and specialise in heart surgery or brain surgery, or I've gone into my areas of specialty. One of them, certainly in the last 12, 15 years, has been teaching time management, and that's taken me all around the world. I've taught time management in Texas and Florida and New Zealand and all over the place, nuts and bolts and other things also. But the area that I love, the area that I enjoy, and the area I'm passionate about is fees. And I know this sounds so dry, doesn't it? It's like, being a specialist or an expert in trust accounting is like whoopee-doo. But fees to me, I'm sorry if I've offended anybody, but that's really dry to me. But fees, I just love it, and I want to share that passion with you and my fee journey in teaching how to teach you how to get better fees than what you're doing right now. Who wants to learn that? All right? One thing I want to teach you right now is the bad news is the fees you charge right now, you can't do any better. Otherwise you would be. Yeah? Because you're worth right now what you believe you are capable of doing, well, your fees reflect that. So to actually have a fee movement, we actually have to change what we believe. We have to have a self-worth or a business worth movement and change, and your fees just fall into line with that. Alrighty? So with these scripts I'm going to be sharing today, now, there is no place in the world that I've been to yet where what I teach, there's no place I've found yet where what I teach, people have said, they haven't said, well, Darren, that's not going to work here. That won't work in my marketplace, Darren. Because, well, Darren, there's too many cheaper agents down the road. No, I can't increase my fees. That won't work, Darren, because my owners are too tight. Or, that won't work. My owners have been with me like 10 years. If I increase my fees, they'll hate me. Darren, look, I want to put up my fees, but my property manager will kill me. They would never allow it. I've had all of these in every marketplace in the world. Every marketplace. I've been to, I should say, over 3 countries. I'll refine that. Everybody, every marketplace. And so these scripts, that when I'm travelling over Australia, New Zealand, United States, and I'm with someone that knows how to sign up serious fees, I say, hey, how do you deal with this one? And I say to them, well, this is the objection, the other agent is cheaper. How do you deal with that objection? And they give me something different that works for them. And these are the ones I've collected. I haven't delivered these scripts yet in Australia. So you ready for that? I delivered these for the first time in Phoenix, Arizona, with our masterclass 2-day event that we ran in Arizona in May. We had 40, 50 people fly around from the country to do a 2-day event with us. It's great. And this is where I first delivered these after collecting them, putting them together. Some of them are mine. Most of them are from other people. Okay, now, that's a good picture, isn't it? All right? Whoever has the objection from owners when you're signing up new business, but the other agent is cheaper? It's going to happen every time. And travelling the planet in every marketplace, a marketplace is simply a collection of agents that may be competing over the same owner. Does that make sense? It's a geographical area, a small cluster of agents competing against each other. And every marketplace I go to, the same dynamics are there. There is the expensive agents charging the highest fees, and they mostly have better quality service. And then you get the mid-range ones are in the middle, and then you get, which one's down here? The cheapies. All right? And then every now and then they'll win from you. And every marketplace is like that. Every marketplace I've seen in the world. Except one. I went to one little town in Farmington, New Mexico. Now, who saw Sean Johnson last year? So Sean was on stage. I had a call from him. And he said, Darren, there are 7 agents in town. And they all charge 10%, including me. No one does anything else. There is no leasing fee. There is no lease renewal fee. There's no nothing. He said, Darren, I am better than these guys. We've got to do something about it. So we added a leasing fee, letting fee. We added a lease renewal fee. We added other inspection fees. And we were nailing them. This guy now, he was, when we first started working with him, $125 per month per property. Now he's doing about $260. All right? So what I'm teaching, everyone will tell me, well, that's not going to work down because we've all got our reasons of what we believe is the truth. You will always act in accordance with what your truth is. If you believe there are too many cheaper agents, it's too hard, well, guess what? You're not going to do any better. But after this session, if you believe that you are better, and you should be charging more, and you've got that deep-seated conviction, and you can look an owner in the eye, and if you believe you're worth more, they will believe it too. Because in every marketplace that I've been in, the more expensive agents, I don't think they're all necessarily that much better. They don't have these wow factor points of difference that blow you away. They're a bit better, but they believe they're worth more, and the client believes them too. You see the difference? Strong conviction. Okay? All right, let's move on. So, this is a moment, I'm hoping a lot of you, the penny is going to drop to understand how pricing occurs in a marketplace. So when an agency comes into a marketplace, they price themselves. And they look at what are our fees and charges going to be? What are we going to charge for the management fee? And unfortunately, different states around Australia, they think we have this mindset, particularly in Queensland. The management fee should cover just about everything. Oh, but the letting fee, that costs us a bit of time, so we better charge it separately. But practically everything else, they think, what's the management fee for? We could have a person in Queensland, and I could have a person from WA, and I could put the question into the middle, the blue corner, the red corner, put on your gloves, and I'll go, all right, debate question is, what's the management fee for? And this person will go, it's got to be this, and the other guy's shaking his head going, what? You don't charge for that? You do that for free? You do your ingoing inspections for free? What do you mean you put them in part of the leasing fee? Why wouldn't you charge an ingoing inspection separate from the leasing fee? They go, well, that's the way. You see, it's mindset wrestling. Does that make sense? Very quickly, because I could spend so much time on this and I want to, but I'm going to get restricted. But when it comes to fees, the management fee and the leasing fee, really, most owners only care about. So it's more the market than the mindset that determines that. So if you go and put your management fees up 20%, the market might have something to say about it. So it's more market forces that dictate that end, but all the other stuff, it's your mindset more than the market that determines how well you're going to do there. Because you think, well, what's the management fee for? And your list in your head, because there's no real definition, the list in your head then determines how well you're doing the other stuff. All right, but when a new agency comes into the market, they price themselves and go, okay, what are we going to charge for a management fee and other stuff? And they look and they'll do some secret shopping. There's been a little bit of controversy around social media circles in the last few weeks. Who's seen that? All right, they'll do their own secret shopping and they'll work out what the other agency do, and then they'll go in their mind, okay, where do we fit in the market? How good are we compared to XYZ? Yeah? And they price themselves to fit. And if they think they're really good, they might put them at the themselves at the expensive end and operate there. If they think they're not really good at all and we just got to get the numbers, they might go to the cheap end. All right? So where you've placed yourself in the market is where you believe you belong according to your service levels and your worth. Does that make sense? And the point of this, your competitors have done that too. And so if you're up against a cheaper agent, what have they said? They know what your fees are. They've done their secret shopping. They know what your fees are, but they've still chosen to charge at that amount. What have they just said? They said, we don't believe we're as good as that agent. Otherwise, we would have increased our fees to that level. Do you understand that? They are cheaper for a reason. Take that to heart. Other agents, if they felt they were as good as you, they will be charging the same as you. It's not like they don't know what you charge, they do, and they still remain cheaper. Does that make sense? It really liberates you when you can put it in that perspective. Let's just have a look at some of these scripts here. Now, these are just scripts. They're not to be robotically repetitive. Don't learn the words, understand the concept and the argument and the debate. Does that make sense? Yeah. Just understand the argument. Okay, so script number 1, but the other agent is cheaper, and that's all these scripts are based on, is that one. We call this one the pizza one. So, if we agreed to charge less, Mr. Owner, then you're also asking us to deliver less as well, as we would need to leave parts of our service out. Fair enough? All right? But if you were really hungry and you ordered your favourite pizza, I bet you'd be upset when you got it if some slices were missing, and you'd likely complain and have something to say about it, and even perhaps give a bad online review, right? You'd be ticked off about it if you got a pizza with one slice missing. This is likely your greatest asset that you're handing to us. And for us, we need to give you full service, and therefore we need to deliver the full pizza. That's why we must charge full fees. All right, now with these scripts here, take the 2 or 3 out of the 9 that work best for you and resonate with you, and you go, oh, I like that. Well, that's going to be the script for you. Does that make sense? This is a smorgasbord. Just pick and choose out of these 9, and the ideas out of these 9 that are going to help you. You only need to have 1 or 2 strong scripts that work for you. They ace up your sleeve. Which 1 or 2 aces are going to work for you when you come up, but the other agent is cheaper. The one you're going to learn by rote, record them on your phone. Listen to them in the car over and over and over again, and then they'll come out naturally when you're under pressure. You've got to learn them by rote through repetition for them to come out under pressure of the listing presentation. Otherwise, these concepts are nice, but if they're not in your mind and heart, they won't work when you're under pressure and under fire. Does that make sense? You've got to practice them through repetition. All right, number 2, mental anguish. This was given to me by Steve Rosenberg. You know Steve? All right, he loves this one. This is the one that works for him. He's a bit of a super BDM running a big rent roll in Houston, in Texas. Okay, so he said, well, if you want an agent that's cheaper, well, you also need to factor in the mental anguish you're going to experience with having to micromanage inexperienced property managers as they turn over every few months, plus all the issues and complications that result from so much turnover, plus the possible hundreds, if not thousands of dollars that decision is going to cost you. Is it easy to show the owner how bad things can get bad when it goes bad? Thousands of dollars? I think it's really easy for you to show that. But don't sacrifice your peace of mind and hard-earned money simply to get some cheaper fees up front, only to lose it all later on. The big mistake, Mr. Owner, going cheap now, costs you more later on. All right? Remember, there is a reason why that other agent has gone in low ball. All right? Don't automatically assume that your service levels are as good as them. If your service levels were as good as them, their fees will be matching yours. They wouldn't be so cheap. Alrighty, next one. Now this is a funny one. This is by my mate George. George is from Vegas. And when I visited there, and he took me around the suburbs, I mean, Vegas is quite a very vibrant city aside from the Strip. It's a very operational city, lots and lots of property management. And George is a guy that if he's going to get the business, he'll get the business. He's very direct, very blunt. He actually gave me another script. Who's got access to the members portal with all of our training in there, I've got 10 scripts in there. One of those was actually from George. This is another one. Dennis and I were driving around with him in Vegas about a year ago, and he gave me this one. And I thought this was good. I actually got it on video. He was driving the car, remember, out on a highway out in the desert. And he said, his answer was, well, if you hire us or not, it won't make any real difference to us. We'll just go and sign up the next client that comes along. We'll probably get a call tomorrow. But if you go and hire another agency who's cheaper, then you'll stand a much greater chance to be in a far worse off place if you go with them instead of employing us to manage your property. So if you don't go with us, it's no skin off our nose. We just sign up the next person. But if you choose differently, you could be in a far worse situation. Who likes that one? I like that one. Okay. Now, staff turnover. And this is from Selena Mason from New Zealand there. She gave me this, I don't know, about 8 months ago, I reckon. But I like this one. Now, okay, Selena gave me a phone call about, how long ago? 9 months ago? And she'd started her own business. She was at 6 properties. We got in a conversation. I said, Selena, what are your fees? She says, oh, Darren, I know you're the fee guy. You're not going to like it. But I just felt I needed to go in cheap because I've got to get the growth on the board. Who's heard that one before? Who's done that before? I said, what? Why did you do that? I get it. I said, all right. How many other agents do you have as competitors down the road? Several, right? And they would be your real estate agent run by a salesperson, not a property manager, who's never done property management. Okay, so with that typical agent you've got down the road, which is a lot of her market, do you feel that you're better than them? Hell yeah, absolutely. So if you feel that you're better than your competitors, why would you price yourself the same as them, even cheaper? But here is the deal. She got it. And I said, give me a fee structure. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. This one's easy. Bang, that one to there. We add this fee, we take that one up, that one up, that one up. And what happened to your sign-up rate? It didn't change. It didn't go down. It stayed the same. And it's like 3 months later, I talked to her. I said, we are on easy street. Let's do it again. Let's have a look at the fee structure. We tweak that one, that one, that one. And we put it up to the next level. We're already the most expensive in the Wellington market in New Zealand. Or it should have to be the most expensive. And now, how are you going with your sign-up rate? She can't keep up with her growth at the moment. And she's likely now getting 2/3 fee income per property than when she first called me. 2/3 fee income. We've got another agency down the road in another part of New Zealand. With a year later, we are now, when we first started working with them, they were doing $1,600 per property on average across the whole portfolio. Now they're doing $3,100 for each thing. We just had to do mindset change, belief change. We change that, then we can change the fees. If we can't change the mindset, we can't change the fees. The mindset always dictates how much. Kevin Hodge is in the room. Kevin is, as far as I'm aware, the most expensive agent in the Adelaide market. All right, he's happy with that. But I remember taking Kevin to a lunch in 2005 with a guy called Gene Bennett from the USA. Who remembers Gene? Someone here? But we know him as Gene, the mean, lean fee machine. And that guy just practically had a printing press, a money printing press parked in his office, just pumping out money from all the fees that he charges. And the one thing that Kevin got out of that lunch meeting in Adelaide when he spoke was, Gene said, he's from Florida, he said, "You Aussies, you do too much for free." And that is what the one thing he took away. And now, he's been an expensive agent for a very long time, and we did some Morphe work recently as well. But people don't sign up. They sign up because of trust and relationship and how much you believe you're worth. Does that make sense? So I know when you say, "But the other agent's cheaper," or "It's too hard," or "There's too many cheaper agents." It's a mindset. And you just need some training, you need your mindset reworked. Once we change the mindset, then we can change everything else. Okay? And it's different for each market as well, what we can do. All right. Now, Selena, if you want an agency that charges X percentage, then you also need to be prepared to deal with 5 different property managers over the next 12 months in turnover, as they'll need to manage a whole lot more properties per property manager just to remain in business. There's no good property manager will put up with it. No property manager would want to work in that environment. No good one. All right? But if you want a good property manager that's here for the long haul, it just costs you that little bit more. But the thing is that she believes these words. These are her words. She believes it. If the client sees it in her eyes, they will believe it too. She doesn't lose business because people say, "Well, you're just too expensive." They want Selena, they want the peace of mind and a person they can trust. Once they get to that level, if you've got some good points of difference, then the fees become a secondary issue. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Heart surgeon. This one's dentists. So, would you ask your heart surgeon for a discount right before an operation? Likely not, as you'd fear what they'd leave out of the process. Fair point, right? So we are unable to leave anything out of our service offering too. So it's crucial, because it's all crucial to the overall management process. That's why we must charge full fees. And we know that it costs our company, we know what it costs our company to manage a property, and I'd be suspicious of any agency that tells you that they can do the same job for less. It's simple mathematics, simple physics, that if an agency has to go discount mode, then the property manager has to manage more. Correct? I don't know of any other way that's going to cut it. There is no good property manager that, one, will be overloaded or want to be overloaded because they like life more and they want a boss who values property management like them. That good property manager will end up leaving. So who's left? Inexperienced people or bad property managers, because they know they can get away with it. This is what turns into a cheap agent into poor service. That's how it all turns. You need to know that, understand it, take it all to heart and explain it. Yes, there are cheaper agents, far cheaper than us. I could give you a phone number of someone right now to save you time looking around. But I've stopped doing it because cheap owners went there and they actually parked their property there and then came back 1 or 2 years later angry with me because they wanted the quality service too. Look, Mr. Smith, cheap fees, quality service do exist, but not in the same agency. Alrighty? If you believe you've got a good way of responding to, but the other agent is cheaper, and you believe it, they'll look into your eyes and go, it's a game of persuasion. If you persuade them on your way of thinking, it's okay, no worries. It's just a little speed hump you need to get them over. Most owners do not understand all the fees in the marketplace with all the agents like you do, because you work in that environment all day, every day. But don't automatically assume they've got that same knowledge. They just don't want to mess around, and they want someone they can trust that's going to manage their greatest asset. And yet, after all these fees, you're still going to get the fee shoppers. If they're still going about fees, what is that going to say to you? They could be the C-class owner. If you still want to bring on a C-class owner, I would question why. Because I could show you some simple mathematics where you're probably losing up to $50 per hour for every hour that you manage their property. You're bleeding money. You'd be saving money by cutting those sort of owners. You're not making anything, you're losing money. All right? Don't value C-class owners. One of my favourite sayings are like a packet of cigarettes, and they'll take years off the life of your staff. They hurt your staff. and create a bad place. Would you agree? Yeah, I can't think of too many reasons why we want to do it. And good property managers just want a place that they enjoy. Okay. All right, not fair. And this was a good one from Dave Scow. So Dave Scow spoke last year, Mr. Smith, if we give you a cheaper management fee, then this wouldn't be fair for the rest of our clients that are paying full rates. And if we charged you full rates, but someone else, and then gave someone else a discount, and you found out about it, how would you feel then towards us? You wouldn't feel too good. That's why everyone needs to be charged full fees. Otherwise, this is not fair. Who likes that one? Cool. Who's got a couple of scripts already you reckon that might work for you? Yeah? Feeling more empowered? Good. All right, I like this one because this is mine. All right, Kia versus Toyota. You can already see where we're going with this, right? Even with that title. All right, sure, the other agent is cheaper, Mr. Smith, but so is buying a Kia instead of a Toyota. I like Toyotas, by the way. In fact, if I don't have a Toyota parked in my driveway, I'll get it towed. All right, however, the Kia is going to start causing you a lot more issues sooner and will be a lot more costly in the long run than if you just bought the Toyota in the first place. Truth. Would you agree? If you don't like that analogy, go find another one. All right, everybody... Who saw the meme the other day about the little Muppet announcing that scientists have now proven that when tenants say, but it was cleaner now when I first moved in, that it's now actually been found scientifically that those words are imprinted into the DNA of every tenant? So, fake news. Fake news, all right? It's not true, but you think it would be. The flip side of that is when it comes to owners or every consumer, particularly in the developed world, another thing is everybody understands subconsciously, just like tenants with that script, you get what you pay for. It's subconsciously woven into the fabric of every person that needs to buy something. And they fear making a wrong purchase. Okay, less than expected. So if we went and simply charged the same as that cheaper agent, but then also delivered the same level of service as them, you'd be disappointed, wouldn't you? This can damage our reputation as you tell others about your experience with us. We don't want this to happen. That's why we must only charge in line with the service levels that we deliver. Okay? One of my favourite scripts that I've taught previously, because these are all new for Australia, all right? All right, setting market rates. So this is now leading back to the first idea that people place themselves at different parts of the market according to what they believe that they are worth. All right? Okay. As an agency, when we set our pricing, we examine the marketplace and price ourselves against our competitors in line with what we know we deliver in service, but also in line with business running expenses too. We charge a bit more than others because we can deliver more than the others can, and in turn we have happier clients. Cheaper agencies also set their pricing the same way as us. And if they charge cheaper, then they've said that they don't believe that they can deliver the same service as us. Otherwise, they'd be charging the same as us. They are cheaper for a reason. So these are the 9 scripts, and I just want to really, really encourage you. There's so much more that you can be doing with your fees. And don't believe the lie that you can't increase your fees because of cheaper agents down the road. Or, but my owners are too tight. Or, my owners have been with us too long. Or, here's another one. Well, I think we need to be delivering more service. We need to be making our owners happy. Here is the deal. To be able to increase these, particularly with your current owners, they need to simply not hate you. That's my new line. I used to say, as long as they are happy with you. I've changed it. Because this thing's like bulletproof. As long as they don't hate you. Don't then land a letter saying we're putting up your fees. That's about it. Yeah?
So what about multiple owners?
Yes.
So you've got your current portfolio and you've got a few owners that say having those actual manage those 11 properties.
Yes.
And you've inherited that portfolio with things are really low.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. That's a hard one. You really got to, number one, you need to look at what's your expense per property, the cost to manage. All right? Now, when I've done the exercise and worked with agents and worked out the cost to manage, I've always seemed to come out at $1,500. About $1,500 a year it costs you to open. So then take that multiple property owner and look at all of the fee income that was generated, all fees, letting fees, inspection fees and so forth, over the last year, divided by 11 and see how much, and I bet it will maybe around break even or less. So then when that fires you up, and you go to the owner, you need to pay more, all right? That's going to help you put things in perspective to raise your conviction level. So, I was working with an agency in Perth, and we did the fee maximisation campaign because we increased fees with current clients, and then we teach them how to get it with the new clients too. They had about 400 properties. Who's from Perth? This was like Canning Vale area, all right? And we sent out the letters, and there was 2 owners. Between them, they had 15 properties. One of those owners, when he calls, everybody is diving under their desks. They all the heart rate goes up, and because they know that, and they're all in fear. That's already warning signs for me. All right. Now, letters were sent out. I gave them a rule. There's some rules around fee maximisation. There's icebergs in the water. You just got to know where they are so you can go around them. One of them, with multiple property owners, they feel they're more special, more in control, more dictatorial. They don't want you to be making a profit, and they're very happy to know that it will be at cost or less. The letters went out, and the multiple property owners, we have to phone them. Now, anyone with 1 or 2 properties, we don't make the phone call. We just send them the letter. All right? There's some rules around that. But the rules are with me, you've got to give these owners a call. 3 properties or more, we've got to give them a call and let them know, hey, look, we've had to make some changes. There is a letter coming. We've had to make some changes with our fees. If you have any issues, can you please let me know? But it's coming. And they broke my rules. They didn't call these 2 owners. So, 2 weeks in, letters have been out. I'm now in high intensive coaching them, because they're getting all the curlies come in and owners saying, this, and we did a lot of coaching in scripts, but every now and then there's one that comes in the car, hey Darren, how do you do this? Okay, try to do it, okay, all good. But Darren, we haven't heard from these 2 owners. And I said, why not? Did you call? Oh no, we didn't call them, sorry. Oh, well, very good. Alright, so it was a Friday, and he called one, and the guy with 11 properties says, yes, I've got your letter, thank you very much, and just letting you know we'll be leaving. And they called me, and they were really upset about it. And I said, all right, let's do some numbers. We worked out it cost them $1,500 per property, each property in the entire company to manage. We did the numbers on this guy. They were not breaking even. They were $6,000 a year under. Bleeding $6,000. And it was like, Darren, how did this happen? How it happened is because an owner with multiple properties walks in and they go, oh, more roofs and front doors. We need the business. And no one's got a business head. No one got out a calculator and just looked at anything. And now this guy... Anyway, so now we've worked out and they're feeling so much better. Oh my goodness, Dan, we're actually making money by letting this guy go. How good is this? Anyway, Monday, the guy calls and says, oh, look, we've had a rethink over the weekend. No, this is your strategy all along. We've had a rethink over the weekend. We really like our property manager. And if you can just keep our fees the same, we'll stay. This was their strategy all along, even from the Friday. Make people shake in their boots. It's called control, and we also teach about emotional bluster and how to deal with that. When they want you, I want you to dance. You don't dance. You just remain cool, calm, professional, and you don't emotionally respond, because that's what they're looking for. So he calls Monday and says, hey, you just keep the fees the same, but now they're all fired up. They've done the numbers. Just hold on. I'll just put you through to the boss. The boss picks up the phone. Oh, how are you going? Just letting you know, we've actually done some numbers. Can I come and see you? I went round there and said, look, whoever signed up your business was dumb enough to do them at these fees. We've actually done numbers. We're losing $6,000 a year unless you sign up to these fees. We cannot help you. They parted company that day, and that business went down the road and signed up cheaper fees with another agency down the road. And I bet that night that business went to the pub and celebrated, woohoo, growth of 11 properties. So common. All right. So in that case there, you've really got to understand good business from bad business and business that you're bleeding with. And yeah, I've got so many stories in that regard. Yes?
How do you calculate cost of management?
All right, so I'm a property manager, not a mathematician, but what I'll answer that with is certainly work with your accountant. But okay, so does everybody know, two things, does everybody know how many properties you're managing each month at the end of month, right? So month 1 we're doing 300, month 2 we're doing 302, month 3 we're doing 305, month 4 we lost a lot, some and we're now at 299. So you get it? So know your numbers each month, go over 12 months and then divide and get an average for 1 month. Is that cool? For 12 months. For that financial year. Does that make sense? So get your average. All right. Now, your P&L, total expenses. Now you've got your fixed expenses that are relative to property management. Who's got a shared business here? So you've got shared expenses. What are they? Electricity, phone, that sort of thing. You're just going to have to talk to your accountant how you work out what percentage goes to property management, what percentage goes to sales. Are you going to distribute it that way? So the shared expenses, what's the best way? There's a number of different ways of doing that. Talk to your accountant on that. But that then should be able to give you a good number. But when I've helped agencies with this, we always seem to come out of that $1,500. Just, yeah, there's no real variety out of that. So if you do start getting a lot different from that, let me know. But that's generally, what we see. So when we're taking an agency, so recently we had one, but they were doing, it would cost them $1,500 a year. They were earning $1,600 a year and a very thin profit margin, hence they called me in to help them. And now they're signing up business at $3,200 per property. Can you imagine that now looking at their property that's still not converted yet, how they're feeling? They're feeling a little bit ripped off. So we're working with them to transfer and get as much of that impact of $3,000 or so a property across the board. They're going to get so much more income and profit per property than what they have. And that's what I specialise in. Dennis is our growth specialist, more properties, more doors. I'm the guy that works with people to help get more fee income per property. If you want to talk to me more about that, we do actually have what we call a profitability partnership where we work with you, help you increase your fees. We take a commission out of the results only. We get paid on performance and you get unlimited time with me, Dennis and Michael to help you grow, rent, all that. If you're interested, come and talk to me and I'll give you some information on that. But guys, I'm done. Do you enjoy that?
Yes.
Okay. You guys have been a great crowd. Thank you.
Hi, Darren Hunter here again, and the last section of this audio we've put together is a mixture of fee scripts to overcome common fee objections with things like lease renewal fees and routine inspection fees, monthly administration fees and so forth. But we've also got some common mistakes that people make all the time around fee charging, and that's our disasters, mistakes and pitfalls section. But we've also got our 11 laws and principles regarding fees as well. Just things that we've discovered over many years to be able to help you. They'll either work for you or against you. But if you want to get better fees, you've got to learn these success principles and laws. And finally, of course, don't forget, you can download 33 owner fees charged across Australia, New Zealand and the United States. Just go to profitabilitymindshift.com. That's profitabilitymindshift.com. But don't forget, also subscribe to our podcast of the very, very same name, Profitability Mindshift. Go to our iTunes podcast app, or you can go to Spotify or Podbean and subscribe there. Take care.
One of the things that I would like for you to understand moving into the next session is some laws and some principles. Now, I've written 11 profit laws regarding fees, and they're not things that I've created or invented. There's things I've simply discovered along the way as true. And there are some concepts that once you get it, it's going to help you to justify your fees a lot better. So, for example, what I call the law of alternate cost. I want to teach you that today. It's really, really important. So, if you can prove the value of your fee for service, or you prove it when you can demonstrate the alternate cost of them going without it is a lot higher. All right, let me give you a story. Teaching an office fee maximisation in New Mexico. But New Mexico, it's the Old West, all that sort of thing, and great little town. Rents, they took monthly, no one pays weekly or fortnightly rents there, by the way. They all pay calendar monthly. 37% of the town is trailers. It's a mining town, 50,000, little regional town. And I went in to do some training with them, and they're a 10% management town. No one else does any other fees. But also you've got to understand I teach tenant fees too. All right, the reason I don't teach tenant fees here is because Australia is one of about 3 countries in the world where the tenant is actually listed as a protected species. All right, and you can't touch them, and you think that's normal. It's not, because they're fair game everywhere else, but unfortunately our government believes that our tenants are poor people that cannot afford to buy a property and therefore need to be protected. That's my sarcasm on that one. So I'm working with this office in New Mexico, and we're installing a leasing fee and a lease renewal fee, but also now we're going into the tenant fees, and we're charging an application fee. All right, and we're going to charge a risk mitigation fee, which means if a tenant doesn't come up to scratch, a little bit less on their point scoring, on their 100 point, they can still get the property, but it's an extra risk for us, Mr. Tenant. You need to pay X dollars as a risk mitigation fee. And another fee was a lease sign-up fee. All right, so the tenant has to pay to go through the tenancy induction. And the property manager was having a real hard time getting over charging a tenant to sign them up. And Darren, that's like, Darren, that's nickel and diming our tenants. They're not going to like that. And, you're from Australia, what do you know? I'm thinking, buddy, we don't charge any tenant fees here. But so I had the opportunity to go in. And so what we worked out is that everyone in town signs up the tenant at the office, like you do. These are the only people that go to the property and meet them there and induct them at the property. And I say, why do you do that? Why don't you do it at the office like everyone else? Oh, because we need to induct them to different things. Like what? Tell me more. Well, the hot water service. If the pilot light goes out, we actually show them how to relight it. Okay, what else do you do? The garbage disposal unit, how to use that? Okay, and there's a few other things. I said, all right, so let's take that component out and use someone at the office. What's going to happen? Well, the pilot light will go out. And then what? We have to send a handyman out there. Okay, and then what? He's going to charge how much? 85. Okay, he's going to charge 85 bucks. Who's going to pay that? Well, the tenant will have to pay that. Oh, okay. And I wrote down on the whiteboard, $85. All right, next one, the garbage disposal unit. And in the end, same story, $85. The tenant's going to have to pay. Okay, and there was a couple, before you know it, I had 500 bucks written there. So I said, you're not wanting to charge the tenant $150, but you're providing them $500 worth of value if you sign them up at the office like everybody else. You see what you're doing here? If you sign them up at the office like everyone else, you could be costing them $500 without that service. And you're actually saving them a packet by only charging $150. And he got it. He's saving the tenant a lot of money. And he really believes in that fee, gets it every time now, no worries. Tenants do not arc up when you can justify it because he believes why he's doing it. Does that make sense? That's the law of the alternate cost. And so that law of alternate cost, if the alternate cost of not supplying the service is greater, then you've proven your fee. You've got to put it in light of the alternate cost. That rule works for most of the fees that you have. Now, some other rules to understand. The law of the main game is that the owner mainly cares about one fee in general. What is that one? The management fee. If not, it might be the letting fee. But they in general overlook and don't really consider the other stuff of being any real importance. For example, you've got a barbecue, 2 owners having a chat, and they suddenly get onto the fact that they both do property investment. Oh, okay, and who manages your property? Well, I'm with XYZ down the road. Oh, really? And who manages your property? Well, I'm with ABC. Oh, my goodness me. What do they charge you? Well, my guy charges me 9.35%. Oh, really? My guy does 8.8. They didn't talk about any other fees, did they? So what's the emphasis on? It's on the management fee. So when I'm working with officers, I actually use the law of the main game is that I focus on the other stuff. We work on and add the other stuff. because that's where the most value can be built in, and keep the actual management fee around about rack rate and do the work in the other stuff. And it works beautifully every time. Okay, next law. Understand people and human nature. People in general just don't like change. When it comes to increasing or improving fees or whatever, your owners generally don't like to change. And what I mean by that is they're not into going to change property managers that easily. So have you ever received a phone call from an owner? And he says, I'm with the other agent down the road and I'm really hating them at the moment. And they did this, this, this. And you go, oh, yes, Mr. Smith, that wasn't right. They breached the act and blah, blah, blah. And if you come over to us, we'll do the right thing and charge you X, Y, Z, rah, rah, rah. Oh, that's really good. Oh, thank you. I'm really happy that I spoke to you today. And oh, I feel so much better now. And they never actually switched. Ever had anyone like that? All right. And that's testament that a lot of these owners don't change because they just don't like moving their business. Does that make sense? So once you've got these owners, once you've won the race, you've signed up the management, in general, they're not going anywhere unless they sell or the owner moves back in, all that sort of thing. You can rely on that your rent roll is sturdy, provided they have peace of mind. You've got to maintain peace of mind. If peace of mind is destabilised, you are at risk. Mainly two ways they are destabilised is if the property becomes vacant or there's a big stuff up that's rattled their cage and rattled their finances. Otherwise, they generally don't leave. Now, you are simply a problem solved. As long as it remains solved, they're not going anywhere, again, relating back to peace of mind. That means if they haven't got any problems and they're generally happy and you ask them to pay a little bit more, in general, they're not going anywhere. They stay put, okay? All right, now, a bit of a warning. We cannot agree on what fees should be. Though I might mention some fee amounts, I'm not saying to you we all should charge whatever. Does that make sense? Because that's collusion and is actually illegal. I remember a Facebook post on the Australian property management community a couple of years back. A person got on there and said, from now on, let's have a pact. Let's all charge X.X%. It's like, really? And, you know, some people, oh, what a great idea. Yeah, we should be doing that too. And then someone tagged me in and I came in, guys, this is illegal. You need to delete this post now. And someone, oh, that's not illegal. It's just a discussion. And someone gets on, this is illegal. And so you need to understand is you cannot, two competitors in the same marketplace cannot get together and agree on what fees should be. All right? You will go to jail. Okay? So you've got to be very careful with that sort of thing. All right, now let's talk about the fees and justifying fees. Firstly, the letting fee. Now, I'm really not going to give you any scripts on this. At the end of the day, the owner simply cares about getting a tenant quickly as possible. Is that a fair comment? So you need to show them points of difference that's going to help them do just that. And if not, and they then focus on the letting fee, it's going to be hard for you to justify. You simply need to show them with your full letting fee of whatever that is, that you're going to get them a tenant much faster. In fact, that could be your main point of difference in winning the whole business. Because if you're showing, for example, professional photos or whatever, and your property looks much better write-up, well, Mr. Smith, when a tenant dials up, you know, 3-bedroom home in your area, and there's 50 to choose from, which ones do you think they're going to gravitate first? The prettier package. And therefore the proper photos, and so you can actually use that, and you could we're actually finding, Mr. Smith, our stats show we're renting property in average of how many days? I don't know, but give them an average. All right, and we're aware possibly our competitors could be somewhere around as. And if we're saving you an extra 1 or 2 weeks, that's worth $1,000 in rent. Does that make sense? So using that as a point of difference. Say on average, last month our vacancy rate was. But you've got to understand is that most people can quote 0. Most of your competitors quote nothing. So we got one person that knew their stats. Who else here knows their stats that can tell me right now? And that's the state of your market. So if you get smart and get to know your numbers, then you're going to be able to say, our stats are, you might want to ask our competitors what they are. If they're not aware, come to us. All right, so get to know your numbers and use that as an edge to win the business. What have I got you? How about a full letting fee for 12 months and half that for 6 months? I've come across some offices that actually charge I'm just saying this is something you need to not do, but where offices are, if they sign up a tenant for 12 months, they charge a full fee, and if they sign up for 6 months, they charge half a fee. Have you ever seen that before? All right, I'm just saying don't get into it. That's certainly a mistake I see out there. And also I've come across offices, they charge a full fee for first tenant, and then the second, third, subsequent tenants, they charge half a fee as well. I saw that last week. So just keep away from those sort of mistakes. What about using a video on top of your video report as well? Walkthrough videos. Anyone ever seen a walkthrough video? I was promoting them in May. We had a seminar series here with a guy from America that specialises in that for marketing the property for rent. And some good information on that is go to Virtually Incredible, and he's got free how to do it videos. If you want to get really good at it and get strong points of difference, do what the successful companies are. If you want to be the same as everyone else, have no points of difference. And you're going to struggle in getting your fees, and you're going to struggle with the discounting. The internet marketing fee, justifying that. Look, at the end of the day, does anyone have a problem justifying the internet marketing fee? One of the problems I see is a fee being too low. I'm seeing fees as low as $99. Too low, far too low. When an average weekly rent is, how much? $400. And Mr. Smith, with our full marketing campaign of professional photos or proper write-up or rah-da-rah-da-rah-da-rah-da-rah, and we're saving you, possibly 2 weeks vacancy by coming with our program. 2 weeks vacancy is how much? $800 worth. You got to understand is the alternate cost is huge, isn't it? So charging, for example, a low fee of $99, you could be justifying a lot more than that, given the alternate cost could be $800, $1,000, $1,500. Does that make sense? Put it in perspective. In Melbourne, they're getting $300, $400 for internet marketing. That's the best in the country there. Alrighty, but I'm just saying, make sure you're getting a quality fee on that one. Who's using professional photography? I think a lot more are doing that now to stand out. Detailed, comprehensive write-up, no abbreviations. We've got no burrs and wers. Burrs and wers? I think you know what a burr and wer is. Built-in robe, walk-in robe, or a burr, bedroom. Get rid of the abbreviations, all right? Quality write-up. Me personally, I like the style of a promotional paragraph, quality promotional paragraph, and then bullet points. Boom, 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 boom. Not promotional paragraph, promotional paragraph, promotional paragraph. People are just not reading it anymore. We're just so text saturated. You look at that, go, nah, not reading it. But I like promotional paragraph, bullet points. Using several sites also as a point of difference as well. Look, Mr. Smith, we're on realestate.com.au, we're on Domain, we're on Rewa or, whatever. Homehound, rent.com.au is another up-and-coming one. That's another good point of difference that you can look at, because a lot of tenants are all going there because they're putting all properties on there as well. It's becoming more of a one-stop shop for tenants to go there as well. They're getting something like 700,000 visits to their site now, rent.com.au. So all of those sorts of things you can talk about as an extra edge that, Mr. Smith, if you sign up with us, this is how we're going to expose your property. So you've really, with a letting fee and internet marketing fee to justify that, you really have to go on about your edge and your points difference surrounding that. The lease renewal fee. For example, here in WA, I saw many years ago one big mistake happening. Now, firstly, who charges the lease renewal fee? Can I just say, when I started, no one was charging 1.1, and now the momentum is gathered where when I introduced that a number of years ago, a lot more people are now, oh my goodness, our competitors are doing it, now we could do it too, because they actually see that it's working, as opposed to not charging 55. We used to sing 44, 55, 66, 110 is at the higher end. What we're doing, okay, so I say to people, well, how do you justify then charging $55? Well, we've got to call the tenant up, and we've got to call the owner up, and we've got to sign a bit of paper, but that justification's only going to go so far, because how much time does that take? But at the end of the day, I spin it that what is the alternate cost to the owner if they don't have a fixed term? Okay, so I just want to spend a quick moment on the board here looking at the law of alternate cost in regards to the lease renewal. So if we've got a fixed as opposed to a periodic, the tenant is on a 12-month lease and the tenant leaves halfway through the 12-month lease. All right, now give me an average rent, please. 400, thank you. Now, tenant breaks lease halfway through the 6-month lease. How many weeks on average could the property be vacant for? Let's say the tenant breaks lease, comes in tomorrow, dumps the key, see you later, I'm going. How many weeks on average to find a tenant? 4 weeks. I'm encouraging you no longer express vacancies 4 weeks, okay? Because that's $1,600 of rent. That's a cost. Someone has to pay it. Would you agree? Now, next, letting fee. How much letting fee can we pass on to the tenant? Approximately half. So let's just say it's going to be $440 with GST. Now, also, what else can we charge? A full letting fee, even though they've gone through half the lease. You know, it's not done pro rata? It is done pro rata. So is that correct or not? Are we charging half a letting fee or a full letting fee, considered the tenant has already spent half the lease? How much advertising can we pass on? Full or half? Full? Okay, so let's just say it's $165. What else can we charge? Someone have an answer on that? You're the only state in Australia where you can possibly pass that on. Nowhere else you can. All right, another $165. Okay, so anything else we can pass on? Ticket checks? All right, let's just say that's where we're at. So $770, $23.70. All right, now, same situation. Tenants give them their notice, they've moved out. You know, possibly how many weeks vacancy? About the same. So in this case here, $1,600. Also, the owner's going to be up for a full letting fee. We're going to have the advertising and we're going to have the vacate as well. So in that case there, the PCR as well. Okay, so if you're charging in every letting, can you add it into this line? I haven't heard of it, that you can actually pass it on to the tenant. Okay, so they were 440, so it'll be 2,7, 2,810. All right, this is my point, a law of alternate cost here. So if we had the tenant on a non-fixed, then we got $2,810. So who would actually have to fund that? Who would have to pay that? The owner. In this case here, we've got on the left-hand side, we've got $23.70. Who would have to fund that? The tenant. So is it more beneficial for an owner to be on a fixed term or a non-fixed term? A fixed term. It's very, very clear, isn't it? Because if we've then got a tenancy that's on non-fixed term, it's going to cost him possibly up to or just under $3,000. We can see that very clearly. So therefore, if our fee, for example, is $440, we're going to charge a $440 fee. In light of the alternate costs, it looks like a bargain, doesn't it? But if we remove the alternate cost and don't get into that and don't express it and don't display it, the $440 fee was like, why are you charging me that for? Because we haven't actually expressed it in light of what the alternate cost is. So for the law of alternate cost to work, you must clearly demonstrate what that alternate cost will be if the tenant's not locked into a fixed term and how much it can actually cost. And so putting $55, for example, is pretty piddly when you could be able to get more than that. That's the point of having a quality fee on that one, because there is so much at stake in the alternate cost. That's just a way that I train when it comes to lease renewals. And I specialise in taking owners that have been with the company 2, 3, 4, 5 years at a very low fee and then charging the 1 week's rent plus GST. And there's more and more people doing it now. And look, it could be in 5 years' time that everyone's doing the 1.1. I'm just going to have to cook up a new fee for you then and come back. All right, I know which one it's going to be too. And you go, no, you can't charge that. That won't work here. It will. Because you guys rock when it comes to fees. You are the most expensive fee-charging capital city in all of Australia, yet my message is the most well-received in this city. I watch very carefully. Also, my point is that if the tenant breaks their lease, we've got break lease, and if they default and we have to go to EBM insurance, for example, a quality landlord insurer is going to pay a lot more out on a fixed term lease as opposed to non-fixed term. And if the owner is unfortunate enough to be on a non-fixed term lease with a bank source landlord insurance policy, he's going to get a big ka-dong, sorry, claim denied. So when an owner says the other agent's not charging for a lease renewal fee or charging $55, yes, Mr. Smith, we're well aware of what other agents are charging. However, what we've found is that when we get properties transferred to us from other agents that have a very low to no lease renewal fee, you know what we've actually found? They're on a periodic lease. Let me explain to you the cost of that. You see, and this is where we're coming in about getting excited when other agents are charging so little, because now you can cook up your little script and you've got something to educate the owner on. So that's my take on the lease renewal. The PCR ingoing inspection fee, congratulations, you're the only people in Australia that charge for them. Typically everywhere else in other states, it's, well, what's the letting fee for then? So you guys are charging for this too. Ensure that you've got a quality PCR that you can show on your listing kit. Just show them what those mindless pages that you guys have got to put together with all that detail, they are so cumbersome. You don't realise, you think that's normal? It's crazy. I just show this stuff to people in the state and they just shake their head and think, what do you guys do all day except doing bloody PCRs? There's so much detail. Your legislation in this state is so up there. You've got,
South Australia.
let's just put, okay, we've got 5 glasses here of water, all right? And I've got some really strong cordial here. Put a little bit of cordial in, that's legislation, all right? So in other states, put a little bit of cordial in, and that might be Queensland. A little bit more cordial, that might be South Australia. And that's got a little bit, you know, a nice balance to the taste. Northern Territory, we're going to pour a lot more cordial in. And WA, hey, we've got half the glass. We're going to pour all the cordial into your glass. It's just your culture here is so legislated, but it has a nice side to it. WA has the best property management on the planet that I've seen. Because legislation is here, you have to work to this minimum. And if legislation's here, guess where the minimum's going to be? It ain't going to be up here, it's going to be down here. Also, charging for a first PCR and then no fee afterwards. So my thoughts on that. If you say to an owner, we charge whatever for a first PCR and then we don't charge after that, what I've found with agents, then the owners go, okay, that sounds reasonable. You get another agent that says, well, we actually charge a PCR, but then we also need to charge to update it after that. The owner goes, oh, that sounds reasonable, okay. And I've got other ones that just go, well, we just charge a PCR for every letting. And we justify it with ABC, and the owner goes, oh, okay, that sounds reasonable, okay. So just pick your lane, is my point, and work out what's the more profitable, and just know how to justify it. If you believe you're worth it, look into their eyes, belief, confidence, and then you can justify it with something that sounds fair and reasonable, you get it. That's the whole point of what fees are. Some people just charge them as part of the vacate or whatever. But some of the best fees we see are, you know, up to $220 for vacates. At the end of the day, if we really look at your hourly rates, you know, $220 is nothing in cost of the things that you have to go through at a final. Come on, 10% of your finals are okay, right? And the rest, a little bit difficult to a lot difficult. I mean, if you had clean PCRs all the time and everything was fantastic, wouldn't your life be so much better? But it's not the case. Okay, bond inspection, how much time does it take to complete this process? So how long does it take with tenant giving notice, paperwork, uploading your photos, getting your marketing ready, calling the owner, driving to the property, doing the final inspection, driving back, organising tradespeople, going through the bond process? Typically, how long can that whole process take? 4 to 5 maybe? Maybe about 5 hours? And how much are you worth per hour? Now, if the final inspection wasn't done properly, what would be the alternate cost? Could you demonstrate that? I bet you could with some stories, couldn't you? So if the owner is complaining and you're justifying a final inspection fee, if you've got a higher one, you only have to talk about then, okay, if they're charging less, you need to ask what actual level and depth are they going to, and then talk about what the alternate cost is. I bet you could really strike up some serious costs if they didn't do a final inspection right. Would you agree? Yeah, easily. But that is justified on the amount of time mainly. Routine inspection fee. I just really encourage you, if you want to get a quality routine inspection fee in your listing kit, you need to be showing them quality print-offs of what a quality inspection looks like. Because most people in a listing presentation, a PM or a BDM, most people have nothing to show. No sample of a PCR, no sample of a routine inspection, no sample of a tenancy agreement or a tenancy application or a screening process or whatever. There's none of that. Alrighty, so if you're showing them, they go, wow, you look good, and they actually perceive you're doing great inspections. When the other agent down the road does the same inspections on the same app, but they show them nothing, you get the perception. Make sense? So this comes down to your listing kit to show. Now recently we released an article, you saw it, 40 things that you can put in your listing kit. Who saw that? 40 different things you can put in your listing kit. We've actually got another article, 70 plus things that you can possibly put in your car kit as well. That caused a lot of controversy. Now, with a routine inspection, how much does it cost to get a plumber in to fix a leaky tap? So let's say it's 99 bucks. Call out fee, isn't it? But what they're doing, they're just placing a piece of rubber, right? Do you think your routine inspection is worth a lot more than a piece of rubber? And yet they're charging 100 bucks. So why are we charging half of that or much less? You're getting my point? So let's just put things in perspective. Okay, monthly administration fee. Now, postage. The owner says, but you're not doing postage anymore, so why are you charging me a monthly admin fee? Who's ever had that one? So, postage, let's put that in perspective. Are you still posting a routine inspection notice to the tenant? Okay, but also what about regulated forms? But you're not just calling it your postage fee, surely. So postage is only part of it. It's not all of it, okay? But here we go. So owner says, what are you charging me this for? Look, yes, Mr. Owner, and this script's in your book. Mr. Owner, yes, we do have petty expenses that we must pass on. We've got postage. We still have to post stuff to the tenant, though you do get stuff electronically. And we've also got phone calls. We do have some time to time fax costs and petty expenses that we must pass on. And we don't want to be a lawyer that charges $15.71 one month and $22, like they do, all ad hoc. We just have a fee of $9.90 or $5.50 a month. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, but we do need to pass those charges on. But in essence, what I find, most people that come here say they really don't have an issue that often with people challenging on this particular fee. Does that make sense? It's just accepted as part of the norm. What is very abnormal is when I come across the very, very odd agent, maybe 3 in WA, that don't charge this fee at all. That's very abnormal. Annual statement fee. Who charges for that one? Everyone should be. What are the level of fees in the room, please? Highest I move people to is $88. Again, in light of, remember we talked about this here and that little fee? The alternate cost of the owner to have to go to his accountant and the accountant putting together all the paperwork is probably about 2 hours worth of their work. And they don't charge $55 an hour. They're charging $220 an hour plus. So the alternate cost could be $400 or $500 for the owner to get the same service from an accountant. So whether you just got to make sure your fee reflects the value that they're getting and the money that you're saving them. So, $37 here in the market is maybe a little bit low. You work out where it should go to, but think of what the alternate cost is. I know one agent in the state that charges $150 for that one. What about when it's just pressing a button? Yeah, it depends on what system you're on as well. Court tribunal fees. Is anyone wanting me to spend some time on justifying those? I just want to start getting into your hourly rates. Is that if your cleaner is charging how much an hour? 30, 40 an hour? Okay. Handyman, 40. Plumber, 120. Okay. Electrician, how much? Is about the same? Alrighty. And then you've got your geek that come out and fix your computer. How much? More than a plumber. All right, $150 an hour. All right, and then you got your accountant at $220. Then you got your lawyers up at $450. Now, a lot of property managers, when they talk about the hourly rates going to court, what are the charges in this room, please? So what do you charge per hour to go to court? 99. Okay, so we are leveling ourselves with the handyman per hour. We had a $55. The gardener might be charging that, or the lawnmower man, maybe not as much as that. You see where we're pegging ourselves? It's really dumb, isn't it? Really dumb. Is it because we've got the same responsibility as the lawnmower man? Or maybe the same responsibility as a plumber? But maybe we're managing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate. Maybe we have a massive risk in our job. Maybe it requires a lot of experience to be able to do it. Maybe we're not worth $55 an hour. You getting my point? When a geek can come in and fix this for $150 an hour, but $150 an hour, you getting my point here? Where do you sit? That's why I feel that $55 an hour staff is a little bit too low. Would you agree? Also, you've got outside of normal duties fees. Yeah, again, what's the rule when it comes to fees, people? If you believe you're worth it and you know how to justify it, you can do it. There's your rule. If you believe you're worth it and you can come and spin up a good reason for that one, you can do it. Okay, RBA, Reserve Bank, drops the interest rates by 25%. And then the big 4 banks come out and say what? No, we're not putting a full rate down because someone in Russia had the flu and someone in Texas tripped over, and that led to the overinflation of the stock market on Wall Street. And as they talk about this crap all the time, is that every time the banks don't move, they come out and justify. And everyone goes, oh, okay. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. And then the other little banks that would never have done it are now doing it. I go into the newsagents here now, and I want to go swipe and pay. Oh, that'll be an extra 1 point. They're doing that now because they're justifying it, because they've seen other people do it, like in the motels. So if you believe you're worth it, you know how to justify it, do it. But don't not do it because you haven't seen it done anywhere else. Now, points of difference. Remember we talked at the start is that if we deliberately position ourselves in the market with no difference, we're the same as everybody else, really? You're the same as everyone else. If you are, then now price becomes the issue. you are now becoming a magnet for fee discount requests. And you feel like you're going to get pecked all over the place with requests. So you've got to get some good points of difference. Now, discounting, how expensive is it? If you give a 1% discount of $400 a week, that's $4 over 52, that's $208 a year, correct? If over 5 years, that's now over $1,000. But if you do 30 new managements a year, that all adds up, doesn't it? Now going to turn into over 30 grand a year that point of difference is costing you. I know of no other point of difference out there that's more expensive than that. So why do we go the most expensive all the time? Because one, we've never done the figures. We're just doing what everyone else does, but discounting is the easiest to copy as well. We're just doing it. What I'm saying is that if you're going to use a point of difference, don't use that. Go load up on other quality points of difference. And if you haven't really got good points of difference, go and get them. Whether you choose to get my resource or not is up to you, but I've gone out and I've come across heaps of them. All right, but just get points of difference in your business or it's going to cost you a lot of money. Now, for example, points of difference, how strong? The more complicated or the more detailed or the more investment you have to put into your point of difference, the more protected and the harder it is for others to copy. Example, online video tours of rental properties. M Residential, that was in their shop front for weeks and months and months and months and months and months on end. They were advertising to their competitors, this is our point of difference. And Laura said to me, Darren, that was in my window so long. You know how many of my competitors actually went and did that? None. Because they're all too busy and it was obviously required effort. Where discounting doesn't require any effort. And so the more in-depth and comprehensive your point of difference, the more investment you make, the harder it is for anyone else because it's just too much effort. Most businesses don't have effective points of difference but think they do. So I go in, what's your point of difference? Oh, well, yeah, good question. I really don't know. Or, well, we add up everyone's experience, it's about 40 years. Or something like that. It's not a point of difference that's really going to impress. And if it doesn't impress, it might be a point of difference to you, but means nothing to the owner. So make sure you're coming up with very strong points of difference that means something. Some people just cross their arms and say, well, we give good customer service, that's why we're not going to discount. That's our point of difference. So how are you different with your customer service? I don't know, we're just good with our customer service. Can't even explain how in any real depth that's going to be anything convincing. So we have to have more specific points of difference than just great customer service. Because that's what a lot of people use. If your points of difference appeal to something that matters at that point in time, you're likely to get the business. So if I come in with a point of difference that if you sign up with Mr. Smith, we are going to print your monthly statements on gold plates and we're going to courier them to you every month. And that's what we do differently. What's the response going to be? We just justified our monthly fee, by the way. It's going to be, who cares? Would you agree? So you've got to come up with something that they care about. And to come up with something they care about, you have to come up with something that fits their pain, their need, their pressure, their stress at that time to appeal. Though something that you've got right now might appeal to them in a year's time, but maybe not now. What is now, in most cases, is they've got a vacant property that they need to fill. Would you agree? So the top 3 things that owners care about is generally best tenant, they want the best rent in the quickest possible time. So designing your points of difference must surround those things. And if you're going to stand out from the crowd and win the business, focus on that stuff. Points of difference that appeal to their biggest pain at the moment. And then you're going to be relevant and stand out and they're going to remember you over the other people. Now, how do you find out what these hot buttons, this pain, this problem is? You just simply have to ask the question, and that's another training session. But ask Mr. Smith, what's the most important thing to you? If it's not those obvious things, it could be they just fear getting, or they fear their mortgage not being paid, or something like that. All right, but that's another training session. Trust is a must to get the business. I don't care how good you are, how good your brand is, how good the team is. If they don't like you, you ain't getting the business. Would you agree? They don't trust you. You might think, well, they went to the other cheaper agent down the road. Well, maybe the other agent actually got more trust because they go with the person they trust the most. So a question could be, some people prefer to manage their own property, Mr. Smith. Perhaps you could tell me why you feel you need a property manager. Questions like that. All right, now my point here is, this horse race, this horse may win by more than a nose. And in the Melbourne Cup, if you win, you might win several $1 million. And the second guy, what does the second guy in the Melbourne Cup likely win? How much? Is it still something? Well, that is a really, really bad analogy. Because in property management, when you're out there to try and win the listing, you win the listing, you get the whole prize, and the second guy gets nothing. There is no prize, there's no second prize in property management. But to win, you only need to win by a little bit. So you don't need a whole heap of points of difference. You just need some that matter. And as long as you're a nose ahead, you'll get the whole deal and the other guy gets nothing. So it's not that hard is my point. You only need to win by a little bit to get the whole lot. And guess what? In general, they'll be with you forever. Because in general, owners don't leave except for sale or moving back in and that sort of thing. Okay? It's safe. All right, I'm going to keep on moving here. Now, hot button number one, getting the best tenant. What could you do around that? Well, firstly, using several national tenancy databases. Mr. Smith, yes, we do actually have use of 2 national tenancy databases. We use NTD and Ticker. In fact, using both of those, we've got access to over 6 million tenant default records. So if we've got a bad tenant coming in from interstate, we're going to filter them. If they're on a database, we're going to find them. Most of our competitors only use either Ticker or NTD. They're not using both, which means it's likely a bad tenant coming in their logs, they might actually miss them. We won't. Is that something really simple? Use of video walkthrough tours gets more qualified tenants quicker. Laura will say at M Residential, we have the proof that we can rent our property in half the time as our competitors. And so does Total Care Property Management in Mount Hawthorn as well. They say the same thing because they use the videos. So they've got an effective point of difference that soothes the pain and fills the need. And they then likely are going to get the business at their fees, not discounted rates. Quality professional photos, detailed property description. And there's that 97.5% of our tenants pay their rent on time last month. There's that script there. This particular company here puts all their rental properties into a magazine that's in Canberra. That's what they use for their point of difference. There's that script we talked about. Now, hot button number 2, getting the best rent. Use a BDM to ensure the property is priced right in the market right now. That's the BDM's edge over a property manager that's out signing up new business. All right, you're focused full time on getting them the best rent for their property. Quality professional photos again. Also talk about you're keeping the tenancy in line with zero tolerance practices. And that last month, 97% of our tenants paid their rent on time, Mr. Smith. Or in fact, if I can show you a flow chart from our procedure about rent, day 1 we do this, day 2 we do this, day 4 we do this, and show them that. That's what we do. What are the other agents showing you? Because you know they've shown them nothing. Okay, another point of difference, appealing to that. Lease renewal CRA. We do a comparative rental analysis at lease renewal time, Mr. Smith, and we show them a copy to make sure that we're getting the maximised rent we can for you, Mr. Smith. Okay, that's part of, again, the service that we provide, showing them stuff. Now, this is a unit in the northern beaches of Sydney, and this also is in a similar unit down the road by a competitor. What are tenants going to look at first? Okay, it's all about perception, isn't it? Professional photos as opposed to property manager taken photos. And it's not hard to show property manager taken photos, is it? You can find some real doozies out there. Passage inside a built-in robe. Okay? All right, moving on. Now, in the quickest possible time, use of leasing managers. Anyone here have leasing managers? Yeah? I think that's very, very effective. Okay, in showing and proving how you can get the property rented real quick, because we've got people on hand that will just show the property. Whereas a property manager may not be able to get in maybe only once a week. Again, using that as leverage. Use of walkthrough video tours, allowing the tenant to qualify themselves better and quicker because they've now seen the property on a walkthrough. So we're getting quality tenants through and people that want to rent the property. They're quoting your vacancy rate again, 97% of our properties were occupied last month compared to the area average of 93%. There is a Darwin agency using their leasing manager as a point of difference. Also, who's using the Rock End portal? Who's got REST? Okay, you have access to the portal, you can switch it on, it's all part of your package. But if one of you goes and switches it on now, you can say, Mr. Owner, we actually have an online portal that you can log in 24/7 where you can check basic information with the rents paid up to at the moment, any other basic information. That's part of our service. Guess what? Your competitors down the road have access to the portal. What have they done about it? Nothing. What have they said about it? Nothing. All right, it's still a good point of difference for you. Okay, here's an example, again, showing a quality listing kit. Examples of your work in there. People remember. If I just said, okay, let me just demonstrate. Most property managers just do a tell. And I find the more experienced people are, the more years they have, the less they actually show anything, because they have more self-confidence in what they say than what they show, and they actually show nothing. So, let me just prove a point. If I did the whole training so far, I'm just me talking like this with no visual display and no photos, no nothing, is it more impactful if you see something in here, or just me talk and you try and visualize what professional photos look like? Try and visualize some of the stuff I'm trying to express so that I could show you in a photo. Does that make sense? You're going to remember more about what I've said if you can see it. Use a listing kit, people. Get onto that, pull some stuff out of it and use it. You've got a list of quality websites in there as well that you can check out. These are some of the best I've seen in the world. These are award-winning, and these guys are really, really good too in Texas. These are quality operators I've come across. I did some work. I've actually done work in both of these businesses in the last 12 months, and they're absolutely outstanding. Check out their website for some new ideas. We've got to understand what laws are all about. Now, if you go do a Google search on the law of gravity, there's a guy called Isaac Newton. Either he was sitting under an apple tree and an apple dropped on his head, that's up for debate, or an apple dropped nearby, and he saw the apple drop out and some sort of force sped it up as it hit the ground. He thought, this is very interesting. And of course, through that, he realized the law of gravity. Did you hear I didn't say he discovered the law of gravity? He realized it because it was already in place, and he certainly didn't invent it, did he? Okay, so it's a law that he realized. Now, the thing is, over time, and certainly before over 100 years ago, people in flight trying to fly felt that the law of gravity was a pain in the butt, because they couldn't get off whatever, we won't call it a runway, but they couldn't get into the air. But a couple of guys called the Wright brothers came along, and they realized the law of aerodynamics, which overcomes the law of gravity. Does that make sense? So they didn't invent the law of aerodynamics, but they certainly realized it and discovered it for flight, which we all now enjoy. You with me so far? So we're going to be talking about 11 profit laws regarding fees. And these are laws that I've discovered over my career, and you will also recognize a lot of them too, and some of them you won't recognize, and I'm hoping today that you'll have your aha moment and how that's been a problem in my business, and now I realize that law, and now I can use that law to leverage for success. You with me? So we're going to go through 11. Now, fees serve a purpose in your business. Not only for profit, but they're also good for other things too. Now, I ran a Facebook post some time ago. Who's on my Facebook page? All right, so check it out, facebook.com/DarrenHunter.com. We ran a competition on there. I threw it up, and I think it was a bit irresistible, but the post was, if there was no legislation, there was no restriction, what fees would you like to charge landlords or tenants? And we got about 75 responses from budding property managers and some wonderful fees, which I haven't got time for. They're all on there if you want to go check them out. But let's have a look at three of some of the best. $150 tenant vacate annoying comment fee, charged when a tenant states it's in a better condition now than when I moved in. Whether you want to warn them up front about that fee, because you'll hear it every time. You probably make some good money. The next one, the $50 tenant, we don't have your money fee. Charged when a tenant says, but I paid 2 weeks rent when I first moved in. You know, at the end of the tenancy, where's my 2 weeks rent? You're holding on to it. $100 landlord stalking fee. Charged to an owner when they call your landline, then your mobile, then your landline again, and then your mobile again, all in the space of 2 minutes. So again, fees have a purpose. Now, do I need to say that what I've just said is a joke? You cannot charge tenant fees in Australia, and can I just state, I'm in Queensland, I'm on a Queensland stage, you can't charge them in Queensland either. So I don't want anyone coming up to me afterwards and saying I'm being illegally incorrect and all that stuff. Bit of a laugh. Okay, now let's just have a look at the first law, which is called the law of cost for value. You understand this. Consumers everywhere understand this concept. It's simply, if you want a better quality product or service, you need to expect to pay more for it or suffer the consequences. Now, We've experienced it here. Who's enjoyed their time at the Marriott Hotel? You know, I've just found them, these guys here, Elaine Mills Property Management, their room was double booked. They got upgraded to the penthouse. So you enjoy your 3 toilets and your 3 widescreen TVs and all that stuff. But yeah, well done. So they got great service. And I've experienced a better level of service here than anywhere else. You know what? I haven't grumbled so much about paying for the stuff, for the food and all of those sort of things. I've been happy to actually spend a little bit more because I've enjoyed my experience here. Now, let me just tell you about my realization that you do get what you pay for. Let me tell you a quick story. Some years ago, I did some training for, it was a professionals group, love the professionals. We did some training in Sydney, and I was booked to go and speak at Olympic Park, but Olympic Park is very hard to get into from an accommodation point of view. I missed the boat. I couldn't get booked into Olympic Park. I booked 5 minutes drive away in a suburb called Lidcombe. Now, I'm an Adelaide boy. I'm not from Sydney. I thought, really close? This is great. And I booked into a place, I'm not going to tell you the hotel name, but it was an $88 what-if job. And I thought, okay, I'm staying a couple of nights. It's only a couple of nights. I'll be fine. I did a session in Melbourne, jumped on a plane, got off a plane in Sydney, 10 o'clock at night, arrived, and I went, oh my goodness, what have I done? It's just a bed. It's just a bed. It's just a bed. Anyway, they had mattresses out on the driveway. It's just a bed. It's just a bed. Anyway, what can I say? It didn't happen on the first night. The second night, I started all this itching. And it was terrible. This is what happened to me the next 2 weeks. Now, these are not my photos. I'm kicking myself I didn't get the photos, but no joke, this is exactly what it looked like and how it affected my body. Bed bugs. It was terrible. And I had these big welts come up all up my arms and on my chest. It was a shocker. So you get what you pay for. $88 a night, I thought it was a bargain. You get what you pay for. All right, now, do you think that this person who just had this tattoo job got a bargain? Do you think he saved some money? All right, do you think he actually saved some money there with that tattoo? The $100 tattoo or the $650? What would you rather pay for? Neither, because I don't have any tats either, I understand. But for people that like tats, I think you would actually rather to pay a bit more. And I bet the people that do get tats and enjoy ink and all that stuff, I bet they do realise the value of a good tattooist. Would you agree? I also understand the value of a good graphic artist for my business. All right, I'm happy to pay more. Now, how does this apply to property management? Well, we might see the 5%ers, the 6%ers, the 4%ers out there depending on your market. All right, and you might think, well, how can we compete with that? How can we compete with the 5 and the 6 and the 7%ers, or however small they are in comparison to what you're charging? And so you can get stonewalled by that, or you could possibly come out. And this is something that I got inspired by a speaker that you're seeing tomorrow called Martin Grunstein. But this is a response. So yes, Mr. Landlord, we know other competitors doing 5.5 or 6% or 4.4%. But did you know we actually repair? We kept busy repairing 4.4% service, for example. Does that make sense? Understanding the law of the cost for value. Now, let's have a look at another law, the law of price focus. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. So if the client perceives you no different from your competitors, and you're a blue brand as opposed to a red brand as opposed to a yellow brand, and that's the only difference, now price becomes the focus. That makes sense, doesn't it? So, if you choose to have no effective points of difference, it comes at a price more expensive than investing in points of difference in the first place. Simply, if you've chosen to have no points of difference and you're no different from your competitors in your service, really, you are a magnet for discount requests. And you might wonder why you struggle with discount requests. You're actually attracting them because you've chosen to be no different from anywhere else. You need to, instead of losing out in profit, because you've got no effective points of difference, why not invest in points of difference, do it proactively, and then get your profit? We have, walk out that door right now, companies out there that have points of difference for you that you can go and invest in. You can go and speak to them at the lunchtime or throughout the conference. Let's have a look at some of those. Walk through property videos. Talk to Todd here from Virtually Incredible. Online booking system, Inspect Real Estate. Who's using Inspect Real Estate? Are you finding it an effective point of difference, not just in letting property? All right, and if you don't know how to use it as a point of difference, if you've got it, go speak to Dennis, Yusuf at BDM Coach. She'll tell you how. 24/7 online landlord-tenant access to information. Talk to Palace, talk to Rockend. Quality inspection apps, CR apps sponsors out there. Use of the property owner's tenant tradesperson's handbooks. LPMA premium members, you have access to those right now. Now you can come and buy them from me separately on my shopping cart, or you can get them as part of your membership that's on the LPMA platform. So they are some good points of difference. Wow Factor website and marketing materials. Well, if you want to know some of the best websites in Australia, take a look at the finalists tonight at the best website of the year and go and check out their websites. They're finalists for good reason, and have a look at their sites and see what they do. Law of the main game. Who would agree? Let's just say there's a couple of landlords at a barbecue and they get chatting. Oh, you do investment property? Oh, so do I. Oh, well done. Oh, who do you use? I use XYZ Real Estate. Oh, really? I use ABC Real Estate. Oh, my goodness, what a coincidence. How much do they charge you? Oh, my guy charges me 8.8%. What does he charge? Oh, 7.7. Oh, really? You notice they probably don't talk about any other fees? They're really only focused on what I call the main game. So most landlords focus just on the management fee, and if not, it might be the letting fee. But that's about it, generally. I'm not saying 100% of the time, because someone might go for you and talk about, well, why are you charging me a postage and petties fee? And that sort of thing, but generally people hang around that top end. So what I'm saying here is they pay little to no attention to the other fees, so you need to focus on adding and increasing your ancillary fees. And quite frankly, you can actually, and I've worked with a lot of businesses where we have doubled their profit margin or increased their profit margin by 50% just by adding those other fees. And you'd be surprised if you just find an extra $200 or $300 per property in fees added on, it's all profit. You can do some real damage and increase your profit margin quite significantly. It's the law of the main game. But not only does it boost profit, but also if you've got solid other fees, you can significantly or certainly increase the health of the value of your business by increasing the health of your multiplier. Now, I'm not a rent roll broker. We do have Chris Goodway here who's a rent roll broker. Bob does look after New South Wales as well. Have a chat to those guys. But it does certainly have an indirect impact on the value of your business. The law of profit acceleration. Very simply, for every dollar that you earn through rent roll growth, everyone wants to grow. But what's the problem with that? You're going to have to pay for extra staff. You're going to have to pay for extra overheads as you grow. You get an extra 80, 100 properties, an extra 120 properties, you're going to have to be putting an extra person on, an extra internet connection, and an extra computer, an extra mobile phone and car allowance, and all those sort of things. So in the end, you're going to be keeping around about 15 to 30 cents in the dollar, 15 to 30%. I mean, the average we see is about 20% net profit out there. You with me so far? However, for every dollar that you earn for the business that you already have because you've already paid the expenses. You've already done it. For every dollar that you earn by simply increasing your income per property, you get 100 cents return in the dollar. So if you're getting a 20% net profit, you get 100 cents in the dollar, you're getting 5 times impact than rent roll growth. So let's have a look at it. Let's just say we've got a business here, and let's say they've got 300 properties. And for all their total revenue that they get an average of 20% profit. And let's say we want double the blue. But the traditional thinking in this country is if we want to double the blue, we've got to double the property numbers, right? That's the traditional wiring that we all have, I have, everybody had, or has. So they would then double the property numbers, double the workload, double the expenses to get double the profit margin. Now, I don't think that's too much of an issue for people here. Everyone wants to grow their rent rolls because everybody knows to get extra staff is really, really easy. You put a job on Seek, advertise, and you got 10 to 15 quality, competent property managers waiting. Is that what you see out there? It's not like that, is it? And in fact, there's places like Perth. I reckon it's gone from extremely hard to get quality staff now to, I believe they're actually reaching the impossible zone now. 120 jobs going, 20 people looking. Half of those are probably bad. But if we increase our income per property in such a way, and let's say we're getting $200 net profit per property already, and we find another $200, we just add it on. So instead of doubling our workload and expenses and so forth, we can actually possibly up to double our profit margin. I've done more and I've done less, depending on the circumstances, in this particular manner. Makes more sense. Okay, law of the fee lid. Basically, it says the fees you're earning right now, that's the very, very best you can do. You can't do any better with your current mindset. You see, when I come out and I say, hey, we can increase your fees and we can do this and we do that, without training, without detailed, intensive training, I'll get every reason why it can't be done, won't be done, and my rent roll and my landlords won't pay more. There's no way they won't pay more. And Dan, you don't understand, we've got the 4.4% and that 5.5% agents in the area is cutting it. I hear it everywhere. Hey, you seen that advert on TV with the insurance where they say, we've come across so many insurance policies out there that exclude things out of cars. We've taken all those parts and built a whole car. Have you seen that advert? They built a whole car out of all the parts that are excluded. Well, I tell you what, if I put on a map all the places in Australia that told me can't be done, won't be done, my landlords won't pay more, and we've got these big discounters in the area, it can't be done, all the areas that have told me that, hey, I've got a map of Australia. Everyone tells me can't be done, won't be done, so you can't do it with your current mindset. There's another law that comes into effect called the law of increased fee. Because you can't do it with your current mindset, therefore we have to get a new mindset. So how do we do that? To get better fees, just use this simple formula. One, you need to believe or know that you're worth it. Now, believe is a bit of a wishy-washy word used in our English or in our westernized culture. It's a bit like wishful thinking, but that's not the true definition of believe. It's actually a knowing. Do you know that you're worth it? You really know it, because knowing comes from your heart. It's conviction, isn't it? Okay, do you know you're actually worth it? And then you've got to know how to justify your fees. So you've got to know you're worth it. You can look someone in the eye with conviction and go, yeah, I'm worth it. And we're worth it because, and you've got a script or a dialogue or whatever for that particular fee. Landlord says, well, why are you charging me postage and petties like that? I mean, with the electronic age, you've got email. Well, Mr. Landlord, I understand that. But we do have to cover petty expenses in our business. By the way, we can't email yet a tenant a notice to do an inspection. We can't email yet any regulated forms to tenants, so postage is still in the equation. Does that make sense? So we justify, and we're not going to call the fee postage and petties, by the way. Let's call it monthly admin fee, statement fee, monthly statement fee, whatever you want, but don't call it postage and petties. So you've got to learn how to justify fees, whatever those fees are. Okay, and when you do that, that's when you go to a new level of fees, but it can't be done with a current mindset. The law of alternate cost. If you don't provide the service, what's the alternate cost? This law doesn't apply to every fee that you do, but it does apply to several. So it works well with fees like an annual statement fee, a lease renewal fee, routine inspection fee. Now, for example, the annual statement fee, you know where I'm coming from here. You say to the landlord, we charge, for example, a $35 annual statement fee. And the landlord goes, well, I don't want that. So what's going to happen to the landlord at this point? Somebody? The landlord says, I don't want an annual statement. You're going to charge me for it. What's the alternative? Accountant. Hey, the accountant will be very happy to do it. And they'll provide great service. I'm sure they will. And they'll get his 12 monthly statements and put them together and start calculating. And I reckon it won't take an hour. It will take up to 2. Now, I don't know about you, but my accountant charges about $220 an hour. So $440 later, the landlord's got the same service that you could provide for whatever your fee is, whether it's $33, $44, $55 or whatever. If the alternative is $400 or $300, and your fee is $40 or $50, do you think you've just saved the landlord some money? All right, it's called the law of alternate cost. You could go through the same thing with a lease renewal fee. If the landlord didn't, or you didn't sign fixed-term leases, and I know there's different legislation in Australia that some people sign fixed-term leases and some don't, but boy, as a property investor myself, I wouldn't be happy if my tenant went on to a non-fixed-term lease, especially in a quiet time. And if they leave, it's going to cost me a bucket load with vacancy period, a new letting fee, advertising costs. You with me? But if they're in a fixed term, we can get break lease expenses, rent till a new tenant moves in, part or full of the letting fee, part or full of the advertising costs, and of course we're in WA, we'll get every other fee as well. You see the law of alternate cost working there? You can work for a number of different fees. Not for everyone, but that's a law of alternate fee. The law of the norm. Your clients don't think you're expensive as long as you are meeting their expectations. You're simply a norm in their life. I come across several agents that are on a little bit of a more of expensive spectrum, and they think, oh, well, we've got to do this and we've got to be hot on that because our clients will know we're expensive. And I go, no, you just are. You just are. If you're solving their problem, if you're providing them peace of mind, they're not thinking about your fees. You just are. You're a norm in their life. That makes sense, doesn't it? All right? However, if they perceive a loss of value or service, you start dropping, you start lowering your standards, you start not meeting their expectations of what you said you will deliver, now we've got a problem. Because your fees are here, their loss of value drops, and now they're looking up and going, you're expensive now. And guess what? That principle applies even if you're the cheapest agent in town. Imagine that. You're a 1.1% agent. Now, you wouldn't last 2 seconds, not even on 3.3%. But let's say you did. Could you imagine a landlord saying you're very expensive with your fees? All right? So what I'm saying, if it happens for the cheapest, the principle applies to the medium agent and applies to the most expensive agent in town. You may as well not be in the cheap end of town. You hear me on that one? That applies to everybody. You may as well be getting quality fees. The wonderful thing about fee increases, and this is particularly useful when you've got clients that have been with you a while, 12, 18 months, 2 years. Talking about fees with current clients. The thing is that people just don't like change. Landlords don't like change. Have you ever had a landlord ring you up and he said, I'm renting my property with the other agent. I'm really unhappy with them at the moment. And they're doing, X, Y, Z, and they're doing this and you're doing that. Oh, Mr. Landlord, I know how you feel. That's really bad. Did you know they're breaching the Act? I'm sure they're costing you a lot of money to come over to us. We'll look after you. And how many of those landlords in that type of conversation actually changed? Now, in my experience, they were like sticks in the mud. A lot of these landlords have to be wildly angry to actually change. So inherently, your clients are now settled. They're settled. They solved their problem when they signed their management agreement with you 1 or 2 years ago. They don't want to go through all of that again. So people just don't like change. If their problem is already being solved, people are very reluctant to move their business because of having to pay more. Now, I remember when I was speaking in Sydney to a group there with training, I had about 30 people ready to go. It was 10 minutes before my session. And I had an email from my property manager saying we got a problem with the bathroom, with the shower head. The house is only 6 months old. We got water spitting out here. And I just went, please deal with it. Bang, phone down. And I looked at my phone and I thought, that's what I pay for. I don't have to worry about chasing around plumbers at this point when I'm about to train. That's what I pay for. That's peace of mind. Someone else deals with all the rubbish and the crap and the problems. That's what your job is. But clients will leave if they have a sense of a loss of value, not because they have to pay more. Now, that's a generalized comment. If you do a fee maximisation training, there's a small amount of people that may leave, but it's very, very lucrative. The negatives completely are outweighed by the positives, financially, definitely. All right, there's a small amount of people that go, but nowhere near than what you think. Let's have a look at another law, the law of familiarity. It works hand in hand with the last law. People would rather stay with who they know than move to someone they don't. We've all heard the term, rather the devil you know than the devil you don't. That's why it works. Because they might grumble, they might complain when they get your letter that the fees are going up, might get a little bit upset. But when the dust settles, they'd rather who they know. But if they get the letter and they're already experiencing a loss of value because you're not providing good service, that's a problem. That's called the law of lost business. Okay? Very, very easy. That's the only real weakness to the situation. If they're not happy with you, if your landlords are reasonably happy or better, it works. But here's also the nail. People fear being in a worse off situation. They'd rather who they know, who they're comfortable with. They'd rather pay a bit more than stay, but they fear disconnecting. Let's just say they needed to disconnect from your business. They've got to give you a call and they go, Kelly, love you lots. You do such a good job for my property in Mawson Lakes, where you guys are based. But yeah, I think your fees suck and I'm going. And what do they have to do? They have to put something in writing, organise to get the paperwork back. In the great unknown, find another agent. That's what they're thinking in their mind. I'm not saying it may happen in reality. The agent might do all the work. But they think, I've got to go find someone else. But I solved that problem 2 years ago when I signed up with Kelly. I don't want to go through that stress again. It's easy to pay that little bit more. This is another one key thing why this works. So people prefer to have a problem solved and receive peace of mind over paying less and receiving a substandard service. Now, this was illustrated really well last year with Leighton Walters, and I do miss him this year. He's always been a guy that's been around the event. He does such a great job. Such a good session last year. Do you remember that session he did on customer service? Really, really good. And in that session, he talked about, a company did a survey walking down a mall on phone companies. And the question was, would you rather pay a little bit more and get good customer service and support, or would you rather pay less and not get the good customer service? Would you rather have a cheaper deal or a cheaper package? The overwhelming majority of people said what? They would rather pay a little bit more. The issue we've got here, people, is that you know that you're better than most of your competitors. That's why you're here. You guys are the cream of the cream in Australia. We have the very, very best property management operators in this room right now. And you know you're the best. Your job is you have to get that message out there. You need to educate your landlords. You need to educate them through marketing, through a whole heap of different means to educate them that there is a difference between agents. They don't think they all just do property management the same, and therefore they all should charge, they're just going to then focus on the fees. You get my point? It's your job to educate them that you are better. I just want to cover 3 key points where this doesn't work. We've actually covered one. If you're looking at increasing your fees, if your landlords are unhappy with you and they've had 4 property managers in the last 12 months, big turnover, or they're just getting crap service, lots of stuff ups, that's not good. You don't increase fees in that situation. Is that okay? And honestly, you'd probably find your property management department's a lot better than what you think. If you sent out a survey to 100 landlords and you got 100 back, which is not going to happen, but let's say you got 100 back and 2 people hated you, that's normal. And 3 landlords are annoyed with you, that's normal. You with me? But if you've got bleed going out the back door, that's not good. The second thing is that you simply have to believe what I've just said. Because if you do believe what I've just said, your mindset's just gone to the new level. You just need to know how to do the process and how to justify your fees. And the third one is simply this. You need to be motivated. Because the amount of people that thought this was a great idea, and I've talked to, and then they shelved it. We'll do it later, Darren. We'll do it later. Well, that shelf accumulates a lot of stuff. My background is property management only. I'm a residential property manager at heart. I've never been a full-time BDM or anything like that. But I first started in 1989 in Adelaide, very green and not knowing what I was going to get in for. And the first 2 years as a property manager, I hated the job. Couldn't stand it, wanted to get out. And it was due to a conflict. I really struggled with conflict. Of course, coincidentally, I'm running Control Conflict now, a 3-hour session this afternoon for property managers in this room. So certainly I had to conquer the issues I had with conflict, and it was a lot to do with my own self-esteem and low confidence and so forth. In '93, I was really able to nail the conflict and confidence issues that I had over a lot of things, and my career really, really took off from there. So in my time, I've been a property manager, property inspector, full-time doing ingoing, outgoing routine and full-time tribunal hearings for probably the hardest suburbs in Adelaide. And that was quite an interesting job, thoroughly enjoyed it. From there, I moved to the Riverland of South Australia. So I've done about 9 years of regional property management in my time and about 5 years of metro property management frontline. I've also been a senior property manager and also a state property manager, managing 28 property managers over 18 offices over a third of Australia, including Victoria and New South Wales. So thoroughly enjoy what I do, but since then I have developed, and I first started this in 2000, I developed a set of skills that has really taken me around the planet, and I am what we call a fee maximisation expert, where I go into offices and we increase their fees. As long as we stick with a process, it works every time, as long as the conditions are right when we go in. And really the conditions to be right is just we don't want landlords ticked off when we start. As long as they're genuinely happy, it works. Of course, there is about 20 different reasons what people tell me. It can't work, won't work, that won't work here, Darren, because we've got too many discounters down the road. Our landlords are too tight. That will work on the other side of Brisbane. It won't work here. And they are the main reasons why it never happens, is because people put up the wall and say, sorry, it won't work, because it's outside of their reality. You're going to learn today that we are really in a mindset zone. What you believe and what you know to be true becomes your reality. Your truth becomes true for you. And that's the area that I'm going to tinker with today. And that's what you've come for here today, is I'm going to challenge your thinking. Because if I don't challenge your thinking, your results will stay the same. And I'm hoping you haven't come to training for that. We can change the way we think, we will change our results. Okay? With fee maximisation, it's taken me over the planet now. I was talking with one of my clients in New Mexico yesterday. I've got clients in Melbourne I'm currently working with at the moment. I've worked with people in Queensland. This stuff works everywhere. But part of my fee maximisation process that I do is it's no good increasing fees with current clients, because that's my main area of expertise, is current landlords and how to increase their fees. What about the new business end? So what I'm teaching you today is the other stuff that I teach, that it's no use us increasing fees with current clients. We've got to get it at the new business end too. So in this session, these are the 8 key areas that we are going to look at. Firstly, we've got to get a better fee mindset. We actually have to challenge the way we think, because the way we think right now is the reason why you are getting what you are getting right now. Also, building exceptional client trust. We are in a trust currency, and I honestly believe the person that has the maximum trust is the person that's going to get the business, whether they have higher fees or lower fees. Also, we're going to talk about becoming the expert in your client's eyes. I'm simply going to reveal to you the strategy that I've used for my business for the last 11 years, the #1 strategy. Also, overcoming discount requests. So I've got 10 different strategies, techniques and scripts that I'm going to share with you, really good nuts and bolts stuff. Also, getting your promotional material right. I'm going to bring out some of the best promotional material that I've seen around Australia, and we're going to talk about that. Also, creating an impressive listing kit, using stats to impress, and also standing out with points of difference as well. We've had this seminar entitled Disasters, Mistakes and Pitfalls, and that's worked well for us because it's brought people along, and everyone wants to hear bad stories that they can learn to not make themselves, correct? But when it comes to disasters, mistakes and pitfalls, from a fee maximisation point of view, I have to admit up front, I'm going to be very boring. I haven't got any real bad cases to talk about where we've actually gone in and seen people increase their fees, and I've never ever seen a disaster. But the other disaster I do see out there is I know my message about fee maximisation, I know I can do it in 95% of businesses. But unfortunately, 95% of businesses never do anything. And that's the biggest disaster I see. Because most businesses I work with, we should be able to find a minimum 10%, most that I work with, find an extra 10% income over and above what you're currently achieving for the same amount of properties. And for a lot of cases, if your average profit margin is 20%, then we should be able to increase your profit margin by an extra 50% without having to find 50% more properties. But we've got a bit of an issue. when we talk about fee maximisation. And I have to state that the niche that I've settled into as a national and an international business consultant in this particular area, it's not as popular as rent roll growth. It's not as popular as my message. You need to go get more roofs and front doors. You need to get busier. You need to employ more staff. All of those sort of things that come out of rent roll growth, which is great, but it seems like I'm the only guy, as far as I'm aware in the world, that teaches this stuff now. I'm a specialist. Okay, yes, I'm based in Adelaide, but I teach it internationally. And in America, I don't see anyone out there doing this. And there's a very, very big reason why I know this isn't a popular topic, because it's all about mindset. Because everybody believes that if we go and increase our fees, our owners are going to walk out the door. I've never seen it. I've always seen the income is a lot more than what we first started, even if we've lost some properties every time. But the amount of businesses that have given me every reason why they can't do it, won't work here, Darren, our owners are too tight, blah, 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 and I'll list them all for you later, it's amazing, the amount of businesses. Actually, the biggest disaster is where your business might be able to earn an extra 50,000, 100,000, an extra 200,000, 300,000. And then they choose to, one, okay, Darren, yeah, we're going to do it, but we can't do it at the moment, and we'll do it in 6 months' time, and I know it'll never happen. Or, Darren, I just don't believe it. Or even worse, I've seen principals that go, Darren, I believe it, but my property manager said if you come anywhere near the office with your message, she will resign because she believes that you're going to do her out of a job, okay? So again, we're stepping into mindset here. And you need to understand is what your mindset believes is true for you. If you believe that this isn't going to work for you, you can't get better fees, and you believe that, you know that, then you can't. You can't do this. You won't ever do it. But if you believe you're worth a bit more, yeah, I reckon we can do that, then that's going to be your truth for you too. It's just that one mindset's more profitable over the other. Let's have a look at top 10 mistakes when charging fees. And I see these regularly out there, but let's have a look at them. Well, firstly, discounting. Some observations. Discounting is the most prevalent when there is no points of difference. And generally, what I see is an overall generalized pattern. The more a boss is focused on sales, as his cash cow, the more he works in sales as well. Not so much a full-time sales principal, but he's a part-time principal and a part-time salesperson. The more I see that, the more they focus and the less time they give on property management, the less value that they have on their property management department, and the less value to make sure that they get quality deals, and they're more competing on fees than competing on service. It's a generalized pattern I see there. If they just think that property management is just an adjunct to sales and it's just there to babysit our leads until they're ripe and ready, then we see a hell of a lot more discounting going on. Also motivated by the need for growth without ensuring deals are profitable and quality. We've talked about that. And usually one big thing I see that's missing when it comes to discounts is, of course, one of these, a calculator. What I want to do now is to show you there are so many different points of difference that you can have out there. So many. That you can use as your ace up the sleeve to say, Mr. Owner, we're actually better because, did you know that, yeah, you can go with a cheaper agent down the road, but we don't want to adjust our fees to their level of service because we do this, and they pull an ace out their sleeve. But if discounting is the only ace you've got, it's too expensive. You need to pull out other points of difference and get a profitable deal. Now let's just have a look and see, because I believe that discounting is one of the most expensive points of difference out there, but everyone chooses to use it because it's the easiest to copy. Now, let's have a look at that. Okay, now, if we're going to do a discount, usually it's on what fee? It's going to be on the management fee, yeah? And usually it's going to be 1%. Would you agree? I mean, you do see some 2%ers out there discounting, but generally if it's going to be discount, it's going to be the management fee, it's going to be 1%. Do you agree with that? An average agency, 300 properties? Okay, so how many new properties would we be signing up in a year? Not net growth, but how many new properties in a year could we be signing up on 300? 50 properties? New in a year? All right, and let's just say that we've got to get the growth, and we don't have any effective points of difference, so therefore we've now got to compete on fees, not on service. So let's say that 2/3 of those properties, we're going to give a 1% discount. Are you okay with that as an example, just to show you what discounting can do? So let's say, okay, so 33 properties a year times by a discount of $3.50 a week. So let's just do each property here. 3.5 times 52. Okay, so that's $182 per property per year in discount. You following me so far? All right, so that's what we've given away. Now we times that by 33 equals $6,000. It's already looking expensive, but how many years on average are we going to keep those 33 managements for? How many years on average are we going to keep the management for before it's sold or the owner moves back in or something like that? 5 years? Okay, so let's go 5 times 6. We're now looking at $30,030 using those scenarios and that assumption. I honestly can stand here and say I do not know any other point of difference out there that costs more than 30 grand. But people do it all the time. You just need to stop the discounting and go, yeah, we need to differentiate ourselves in the market, but let's not pull the ace up our sleeve that everyone else pulls out. Let's compete on service now and points of difference and get some quality points of difference and impress using that instead of impressing using discounting. You with me? Yep. Cool. And I can tell you right now, as an owner myself, when I selected my agency to manage my properties, it wasn't about cheap fees. In fact, I know this particular agency is one of the most expensive in the northern suburbs because, as far as I'm aware, this person learned from me on fees for many years. But it was about trust. I went to the agent that I had maximum trust with and maximum confidence. Fees were a secondary issue for me because I want peace of mind. Because I don't want to know about it, I don't want to know about the crap, I don't want to know about the stress. Most of your owners are motivated by that and not by cheap fees. The fees that you get right now, I know in this room, if I went and did a survey and you know, I know several businesses in this room and okay, what's your management fee? Well, Darren, we charge, you know, approximately 8.8%. That's what we like to get. And then others, you know, 8.8, others are 7.7. And the letting fee is sort of probably consensus anywhere between 1.1 weeks rent and 2.2. And all the other fees are all over the shop. I promise you, routine inspection fees, 1/3 of you in here will charge it because you believe you're worth something. 2/3 of you won't charge a routine inspection fee because you don't believe you can get them. All right, and then some of you might charge an annual statement fee. Some of you won't because, hey, it's only just pressing a button. And the rest of you believe, well, we should be getting something, so you do. But it's all over the shop. But just know that your current level of fees that you charge right now, that's the very, very best you can do. Some of you got high fees, some of you got low fees, but that's the very, very best you can do. And so to actually increase and get better fees, one, you've got to have some sort of conviction. Yeah, I reckon we can do this. I reckon we are worth more. I reckon we do offer a better service than the average agency down the road where the sales principal spends an average of 1 minute a month focusing on property management. I reckon we can do a better job than that. And so if you believe you're worth more and then you know how to justify the fees, you can get it. That is it. That is the formula. But if you don't believe you're worth it, you believe you should be charging the same as everyone else in the area, and you don't know how to justify it, you cannot increase your fees or get better fees. Now, also, what are you building with? What bricks? You see, I see a rent roll in my mind's eye. I see a picture of a wooden pallet that will hold bricks, a pallet of bricks. And I just see a lot of agencies have this. Lots of roofs and front doors, more roofs and front doors, growth, growth, growth. We've got to get growth and sign it up at any price. Doesn't matter, we just got to get it on board. And we're not going to have much more than a criteria than other than it just needs a roof and a front door. That's it. And we'll say yes. And so they're just piling these bricks and just building this pallet up. And what happens with the pile over time, it starts to have problems and issues and cracks in it. And you're wondering why your staff are burning out and you've got this high turnover rate and why we got these issues and these problems because we just haven't considered it in the first place. But we got to get more money, so we got to get more pallets and more bricks. Whereas you get another agency goes, well, look, I don't want all business out there. I want to get profitable quality business instead. I want a place that's fit for human habitation for my staff to work in, and it's not an atmosphere that's toxic like Mars. So we've got to be careful about the type of clients that we bring on. We need to make sure it's profitable, because at the end of the day, when my staff come in and they believe they're worth more than we can justify that, well, we can pay them more. We can get quality resources in and quality computer systems and quality cars, but we can't when we're doing discount rates. And so then that rent roll, as it's grown, is going to look completely different from the mindset of the first. And all of that's going to come out in the wash too when it comes to sell. It's going to tell in your multiplier. That's where it's all going to come out. So again, the question is, how are you building and what have you built your foundation on? What quality bricks? With discounting that's gone on in the rent roll already, because if you tell me, well, Darren, we charge 8.8% and we charge 2 weeks rent and we charge this and that and this and that. Okay, well, let's get your fee structure out. Here it is. Let's put it on the table. And where are your management agreements? Oh, they're in the filing cabinet over here. All right, if I just want to take out 20 on random, open the filing cabinet, pull out 20. Yep, just on random, new, old files, put them here. Okay, so again, this is your fees that you charge, correct? Yeah, alrighty. So let's just have a look and see the first management agreement. Let's open it up, go through 8.8%, but there's a pen line going through the percentage, and someone's written in 7.7% initial at the owner. I thought you said you charge 8.8. Maybe it was just a one-off. All right, let's just get the next one out. There's another pen mark going through the management agreement schedule again, and this time the letting fees are 50% on it. Oh, what happened there? Oh, well, we needed to do the business. Oh, okay. And so what we regularly see is just because you say you charge these fees doesn't mean you're exactly getting them. So what is with the gap? Why is that? Let's have a look. Well, the property manager or BDM panicked when the fee structure was challenged. Also, the property manager BDM wasn't trained with sales skills and they bowed easily to fee objections. The typical rent roll I see out there, and I'm sure you guys are not typical, the typical is you got sales department, Berlin Wall, property management department. And on this side, on West Germany, all the soldiers get proper training, the salespeople get proper training, and they get sales scripts training, and they go along to sales events, and they get taught how to overcome fee objections. And, well, if you can match your commission with the other agent down the road, we'll go with you, and they get all that training. But on the other side of the Berlin Wall in East Germany, the soldiers are anemic, they're not well fed, there's certainly no training, and there's nothing going on, but they're going out and doing exactly the same job to win the listing as the salespeople. You see the issue there? They're not trained in overcoming key objections, and they don't have the confidence. They get scared when they get given the discount question, and they think the only thing is we've got a discount, and boss, we've got to get the business, right? We just got to do it. Not realising what they've done. Also, the property manager BDM knew the landlord, or the landlord was a friend of the boss, mates rates, or this was a friend. You know, I'm going through people's spreadsheets when I'm working with agencies to maximise their fees. I go landlord by landlord by landlord by landlord. We've got to work out which ones we're not going to touch and which ones we are and all that stuff. And what's this one? Oh, that was a person that worked in the office. Oh, but they've been gone 4 years ago. But they're getting like 4%. But they're gone. Oh, but that was a friend of the boss. And my issue to that is if we do have friends and relatives come in, are they coming to you because of trust, or are they coming to you because they're going to get cheap fees? It's a good question, isn't it? All right, the sales department dictated your fee structure. This is where it does start to expose culture, where the staff come in and go, Amy, this property here, I told the owner we'll do 7.7%. And so you'll make sure you get the business. All right, and so the actual salespeople dictating to property management what their fee income will be for the rent roll. The landlord purchased a property with the company. The property manager BDM had a discount mindset. Discount mindset, we touched on it before, but a PM or a BDM giving a discount before someone has asked. I've been there, I've been in an office down south, the phone rang, the BDM picked up the phone, oh, hi, yep, Mr. Smith, yep, management fees 8.8%, but it's negotiable. When someone says that, what they're actually saying, this is what he really should be saying if he's going to be transparent. Yeah, 8.8%, it's a bit steep, isn't it? Yeah, no, that's fine. I actually believe the company should be charging 7.7%. So if you come down to that, I won't go any lower. I feel we're worth 7.7, but 8.8 is a bit steep, that's cool. But we want the business anyway. You see what's happened there? Alrighty. Now the worst scenario I've had, I had a phone call from a principal here in Adelaide, and he said, Darren, I'm a sales principal. What's he saying? He's actually saying, Darren, I admit I've got a business under my roof called property management and I know nothing about it. I don't know anything about it, but I'm still managing a business like that. And he said, I've got a problem. A year ago, we had 300 properties. Today, 12 months later, we have 350. But our overall income today is less than what it was a year ago. I cannot get a straight story out of my property manager that's been with me for 12 months. Can you come in and sort it out and tell me what's going on? And I love stuff like that because, boy, this is an investigation. I love investigations. So I go in and I put in my X-ray goggles, my night vision goggles, and come in and look at the scene of the crime and, oh, yes, I can see that's happening. And then I look at, we're going to look for some evidence, leading back to the perpetrator. And so the crumbs were there and leading up. And guess where the trail went? It all led up to the property manager's mindset. You see, that property manager didn't believe that agency should be charging 8.8% because it is ripping off blind owners by charging 8.8%. So she was adjusting the fees to 7.7% for all new business. But also she felt the letting fee was a bit of a rip-off at 2.2 weeks rent. So she was adjusting it to her mindset of 1.1 weeks. And the principal wasn't aware of that. And so, of course, we had to free up her future. There wasn't much more that we could do with her because she was adjusting it to what she believed the fees should be because she wasn't able to believe that she was worth anything more than that. And there's so many stories that I could tell you right now like that, where property managers get scared or we're actually getting really, really good fees. But then we hire a 10-year experienced property manager that's been experienced 10 years charging what? Lower fees. And so they then start adjusting those fees backwards to what they think they are worth. All right, misquoting GST. So the Competition and Consumer Act 2010, which used to be the Trade Practices Act 1974, has some adjustments made in 2009. And I see this mistake being used probably 80% of the time, that when I get a brochure or a booklet from an agent which has their fee structure on it, I see this mistake happening all the time. In that, for example, their management fee is 8% plus GST. Or it's 2 weeks rent plus GST. The government's attitude towards this is GST came in on the 3rd of July 2000, I remember the day clearly. It ain't going away. We don't have to separate GST in our pricing, but also for the fact that the average consumer cannot offset the GST. Only businesses can offset the GST. So you are unable to be quoting separate to GST. Business to business can. Business to consumer, your main quotes must be including GST. So on your fee structure, it's not 8% plus GST, it's 8.8%. including GST, and if you feel then you need to separate the GST out, put it in brackets. And I know that 8% plus GST sounds cheaper. I get that, and that's why most agents still do it. But it is misleading and deceptive conduct according to the Competition and Consumer Act. And they're very, very clear that you must quote inclusive of GST as your main quote. All good? Common mistake I see all the time. All right, now charging less because of GST. This is a mindset issue. So somehow I think, for example, in 2000 when GST came in, they were charging a 2-week letting fee. And they thought, whoa, if we added GST on top of that, we will not be able to get the business anymore. And so they're now charging, for example, 2 weeks rent including GST and not adding the GST on. Most people are pretty good with that, but it is still a mistake that I see out there. Low hourly rates. So when I'm working in office and say, okay, what are your hourly rate fees? You see, we generally have fixed rates for your routine inspection or your annual statement fee or something like that. And we have our rent-based fees, management fee, letting fee, and in Adelaide, usually the lease renewal fee is rent-based as well, not a fixed. But we do get into our hourly rate stuff, which is, what would our hourly rate fees typically be? Tribunal attendance, what else? Possibly insurance claims. And if you work with me, we also work on an outside of normal duties fee as well. All right, but all charged at an hourly rate. So typically, guys, what are the hourly rates? Can I just ask, what are some hourly rates you typically see out there that agencies are charging per hour for their time? Someone give me some figures, please. Either you or someone else. $55? Great. Good. 60?
We charge $88.
$88? Anyone better than that? Anyone better than that? No. Okay, so that's typically what I see too. Typically. Typically. My point is this. Let's have a look and see other contractors and services and professionals that you work with also in the industry as well. Let's take a look. Cleaners and gardeners, generally $30 to $50 an hour. But in Adelaide, what typically cleaners and gardeners, how much per hour? $40? Okay. Next, handyman, $40 to $60 per hour. Next up, plumber, $80 to $100 per hour. Electrician, usually in Adelaide a little bit more, in other cities a little bit more. Electricians, $80 to $110 per hour. I want a geek to come in and fix the company computer. They're not the lawnmower man. For example, Dr. PC, or they're $140 an hour. You know, there may be some others probably cost more than that. The little boutique computer shop down the road or in Mawson Lakes or something like that. $140 can actually be cheap. Accountant, $165 an hour. That's cheap because my accountant don't charge that. They're like $220 plus per hour. All right, what are some figures you guys see out there for accountants? Any idea? $250? Wow. And then we've got lawyers, $450 per hour plus. So my point is this. Some of you told me $55, $66 an hour. I understand perhaps why we've placed ourselves a little bit better than the lawnmower man. Because in property management, there is no risk. Seriously, any property managers here in the room or done property management before? The job is so drop-dead dumbingly easy. And in fact, selling pies at the local bakery is going to be harder. We've really got no real risk of litigation in this job. I'm just trying to work out why we've placed ourselves at $55 and $60 an hour. Maybe it's because if our portfolio that we're managing other people's real estate that's worth maybe 10 grand on the open real estate market. Is that why we've placed ourselves at $50 and $60 an hour? You getting my point here? Or maybe we are actually in a very difficult job. Maybe we've got a job which has a huge amount of risk in it. And if you've been in the job long enough, it ain't getting any easier. In fact, year by year, it gets bloody harder as people's expectations get greater and all of those sort of things. And people are more aware of litigation and more threatening on litigation. And tenants, more than ever, know their rights and will read the Act and know the Act better than you. Is that why? You're getting my point? We are too cheap. Far too cheap when we place ourselves on what our company should be charging per hour. Now, property managers, this is not your salary. Talking about company costs plus profit. All right, now I'm not here to tell you, but you work that out and you look at that and hardly do I see an agent charging more than $110 an hour. My opinion, still too cheap. And owners don't bat an eyelid if they see this property management company is worth $110 or $130 an hour because they are comparing you against everyone else in society that they work with. Why do we get it wrong? Now, management fee variations. So, printing off from your system, whether it's the REST system, the property detail report, will give you, for example, the property address and how much that property is generating, whether it's 8%, 7% without GST. You know that list we're looking at? You can actually go through. Now, part of the health checks that I do, I want to know how many properties have we got signed up at 8% plus GST? How many we got? Okay, there's 50 there, and then we've got 7.5% plus GST. We might have 75 properties there, and I go through and I want to see all the variations of management fee and then count the properties up. However, the worst that I've seen as much as 40 different variations of management fee in the same rent roll. But generally, 99% of the time, there isn't consistency in what is charged. So where does this inconsistency come from? Whoever signed up the business, what they believed it was worth at the time. Now, if an owner wants a discount and he gets his discount, he has simply adjusted the fees to what he believes it's worth, and the other person didn't object to it. Someone will adjust the fees to what they believe it's worth. You need, and if you ever do fee maximisation, it fixes this process and you get some nice consistency, especially if you're going to go out and sell your rent roll one day. You've got to get consistency of your management fee, and you've got to get consistency of your fees. Rent roll brokers know a nice clean rent roll as opposed to not a nice one, okay, but get that consistency. Lacking de-incentive fees. Amal, you could say I'm one of your owners, and I've got an insurance issue at one of my rental properties where we've got some movement, and the insurance company has contracted a loss adjuster, an independent loss adjuster, to go out and assess the damage. Amal, I'd like you to send one of your people out there. I need, for the loss adjuster, I need one of your staff members just to oversee the appointment. It'll take about 2 hours. How would you feel about that, Amal? You'll lose a staff member for about 2 hours in the office.
Yes, I'm happy to do it, but there will be cost involved.
Oh, okay. So I got my management agreement here. What fee was that under?
It was under other fees.
Other fees. Okay. I only hope that she's written that in there, because I've had that exact scenario happen to me, and I could not have any, I didn't have a fee there. I couldn't say to the owner, yes, Mr. Smith, we're happy to do that, and the fee is. All right, and this is where we get into the outside of normal duties fees. A de-incentive, lacking de-incentive fees to discourage bad behaviour. If you've got a quality tribunal fee, then that discourages frivolous claims from owners that just want your people to go to tribunal on minor matters that really, you know, arguing over $50 or something like that. Does that make sense? You've got to have good de-incentive fees. Tribunal attendance fee, the higher the better. Insurance claim fee. You see, if I'm an owner, I don't like paperwork, and I will put it on. And it discourages bad behaviour if the answer is yes, Mr. Smith, and the fee is. And that's why we work with people to install an insurance claim fee, usually the same hourly rate as a tribunal attendance, outside of normal duties fees and so forth. The renovation supervision fee, some owners want you to renovate the whole property, and the answer should be yes, but you should be charging for it. Because a lot of agencies will reluctantly be doing it, and there is no fee in their fee structure to cover that sort of thing. Also, another mistake we see out there is low all-inclusive fees. Is that people that I honestly believe in the all-inclusive fee. With my agency, they had a fee structure, and I wanted simplicity, and I wanted predictability of budget. So I said, you come up with what's it worth as an all-inclusive, which they did, and I've been on that several years now, both my properties, okay? And I'm very happy with that because it's so simple for me. And it's easy, and I'm not going to get slogged 2 weeks rent after a tenant moves in. Did you know that 2.2 weeks rent is actually equivalent to 4.2%? That's nearly half the management fee up front, big slog in the guts. I wanted to spread it. All right, and so that's how the all-inclusive serves me, but there's too many agencies out there that, yes, to have the all-inclusive is too bloody low because they never got out one of these and actually worked out what they should be charging. And any time where you're going to be working in the all-inclusive fee, you've got to do your homework. Talk to the Macquarie Bank. All right, talk to some brokers out there and just find out in the mix, if I ever did take it to market, what are some negatives that could happen? Because if you're stripping out your ancillaries from your fee structure, you've got to accept that your multiply is going to be devalued. You just have to work out by how much. And at the end of the day, is that property going to be worth more dollar-wise, or is it going to be worth more being on a standard fee structure? You've got to work that out. But also understand that if you bring to market a rent roll which is largely all-inclusive, because it's not traditional, it's automatically accepted with fear. It's not going to be accepted positively. It's going to be accepted negatively until people actually see what it's actually doing and how it can perform if they do. Make sense? So just do your homework, but you've got to get out and look at what's in a typical rent, what's our standard fee structure, what's the minimum is that going to give per year, and then work out what your percentages should be. Because when I see 12%, 11%, all inclusive, it is just too low. You're probably barely breaking even on that. In Adelaide here, we were charging 16.5%. 2/3 of our owners are on 16.5%. We knew how to sell it as well. And yes, our valuation came out, we did get a devalue on the multiplier, but we were, at the end of the day, financially, the rent roll was still worth more than being on a traditional fee structure because we did the homework. All right, also, if you're doing one management fee does all, don't sign up deals less than 1 year. All right, and make sure you know the minimum rent before you say no. You've got to go to a standard fee structure. Just work out what those points are for you. Now, we talked about not using a calculator, but I am convinced many, many years ago, maybe it was 100 years ago, a real estate agent had an owner come along, buy a property, and says, oh, can you rent it out? Oh, mate, I just do sales. No, I don't want to get, yeah, but then I don't want him, I've got to keep the business. What am I going to charge? Yeah. Let's not worry about getting a bean counter back then. And the fee structure wasn't, because it was an adjunct to sales. We're going to get something for it. I honestly believe the typical fee structure in Australia was born out of that, of not much thought behind what the fee structure should be. What that has led to is this mindset that property managers should be managing this huge amount of properties. The typical agency that I see, the property managers don't work 9 to 5. Agencies here, hands up if your people start at 9, finishing at 5, have a 4-hour lunch break, 5 days a week. Hands up, please. It's not the case, is it? And I feel that what's happened with this I'm just generalising here, but the typical fee structure has resulted in this mindset that property manager got to manage all these properties. It's resulted in them working their 50, 60 hours a week. No wonder why we got burnout. But honestly believe our fee structures have to be quality so our people can manage less, it still brings the same amount, and they can have a real life, and you might actually keep your property managers maybe 2 or 3 years more than what our current average lifespan is, because they're managing too much to then be profitable. Get my point? That's just my opinion. And I was on Frontline 15 years, and at the end of it, I was becoming bitter and twisted, and I found out I was actually a nice person when I got off the front line, and all that stress was gone. But yeah, we have a huge burnout, and no one's really got up and said, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. We've just accepted it as a status quo. Maybe it shouldn't be that way. There is an inherent side of property management that's just difficult anyway. All right, but there's a lot of other stuff that can be avoided. Had an owner, I do a lot of Perth work myself. The fees over there, $55 for routine inspection is just cheap. That's at the lower end. Got a particular agency. Okay, team, in the last month, how many routines inspections did you do? Oh, we did 100. We were really busy. Oh, great. And what was our fee again? $55. Oh, okay. Well, how come only $2,200 was charged? You see, it's all good and well to have all these extra fees, but if you've actually got no fee system in place to make sure that they're actually all charged, or a typical agency, the principal's focused on sales, he's not focused on property management. While mummy and daddy are away, the children will play. And because they're salaried, they don't give a crap. Oh, sorry, Mike, I forgot to charge those letting fees last month. Oh, sorry, I got too busy. This is the sort of thing that happens. You need to make sure you have systems in place to ensure that every fee is charged. I'm sure that when agencies actually put that in, suddenly they see another 5 or 10% income flooding in. The more fees you have, the more systems you've got to have in place, the more accountability and double checking needs to be in place to make sure that all your non-automated fees are actually going through. Now, here is a little principle that I thought was very, very interesting. So the principle is basically this. If you're an expensive agent or a cheap agent, if you say we charge X, the owner has agreed to it, and for that we will deliver these services. If over time, your service levels drop. If they're actually getting less now, in their mind, their perception, they're getting less now from what they're paying for, they look up and see, wow, our agency is very expensive. And they start to be critical of what they're paying. Does that make sense? Is that they think that they've lost their value. That can occur for an expensive agent, and that can also occur for a cheapest agent. What that means, you could be the cheapest agent in Adelaide. If you're not delivering what they expect that you should be delivering, they are now believe that you are too expensive. So my point is, if that principle can affect an expensive agent and a cheap agent exactly the same, why be cheap? You may as well be at the more expensive end. And that also leads to, don't ever get into the position thinking our owners must think we're expensive. No, you just are. They're not thinking about that. But they will think about that if your service levels drop or they have too many property managers in the process. But you just are. So you can be really expensive. The owners aren't thinking that you're expensive. Only you're thinking you're expensive. Here are 5 client types that should you increase your fees that you should not touch. You see, I get people telling me all over the planet that if we increase their fees, this reason, we're going to damage the business. It's not the case. Let me tell you the secret and the sauce, and this is it. This is why you can actually successfully increase your fees with your current owners and they won't leave. And it comes down to one principle and one principle only. You see, with my managed properties, as long as I have peace of mind and I'm not thinking about the stuff and it's not bothering me and it's not getting in my way, I have peace of mind that I value. The reason I've got an agent is I don't want to handle the head crap. I don't want it. Can I do it? I've managed thousands of tenancies in my time. I know how to manage my own property. I just don't want to. I've got better things to do with my life. And as long as that remains, that peace of mind remains where they're taking all the head crap and not me, I value that and I will pay for it. So you can increase your fees with the owners that have peace of mind, because most people value maintaining that peace of mind and not going back into the stress zone of, for example, finding another agent. They'd rather pay a little bit more, and because people inherently don't like problems. So the more peace of mind they have, the easier it is. Make sense? So here is 5 client types, all based on their peace of mind has been destabilized. And so with these client types, if you increase their fees and they're already destabilized, you can push them out the door. All right? Because bad peace of mind and increased fees equals disaster, but not generally under any other circumstances. So when we're working through spreadsheets and working with agencies, we're putting our owners into what we call category 1. It's based solely on this stuff. 1, purchased rent roll clients at least 12 months. If you've purchased a rent roll in the last 12 months, they are not bedded down, their peace of mind is not mature enough yet, they're still getting to know you. Do not put up their fees or change their fees. Even if they're the cheapest agent in town, do not increase their fees. You have agreed to carry that and fund that through until a point in time that can actually be changed. You've got to get their peace of mind and win their loyalty first. Next one is fixed term management agreement clients. So if they're locked into a fixed term, typically on the East Coast this won't apply because no one does fixed term management agreements there. In Perth they lock them in every 2 years. Here it's 1 or 2 years initially, then it typically goes on to an open. All right, but don't try and increase anyone in a fixed term. New clients at least 12 months because their peace of mind isn't mature enough yet, it's not rooted down enough yet. All right, so you leave it for at least 12 months. Again, it's all based on their level of peace of mind. Next one is owners that are unhappy at the moment. If they're ticked off about something, upset about something, whether it's your fault or not is irrelevant. They may be upset at that new hot water service they've just been forced to put in, $1,600. They're a bit ticked off. My home, bloody hot water service lasted 20 years. And you're putting one in after 8 years. You know, so automatically got this perception, I'm ticked off with the agency. So if their peace of mind is being destabilised because they're unhappy about something, whether it's your fault or not, just leave it alone. All right, let it cool. Give it time. They'll forget about it. Vacant property clients. So if you know the property's becoming vacant or it is vacant, don't touch it. Because they're back into the stress zone again, because they're now funding the mortgage themselves. All right? You don't touch or go near a client in that state. But can you actually see? There is no Part 6 there. Money tight owners. Do you see that printed there? All right? They're not there. The amount of, and also, I'll talk about that in a little while, but the amount of people say, oh, but what, that owner's too tight, and he still values your service. Or we still put them through the wash, we still put it through the process. All right, now, here are the other reasons. Now, they are the real reasons what the people that you can't be putting your fees up with. This is the other reasons for me that I hear all the time, and they stop this process all the time. It can cost $50, $100, $200, $500,000 a year mistake. Let's have a look at them and see. But my owners are just too tight with money. It's not going to work here. But my owners will leave and go to the cheaper agent down the road. Darren, you don't know. We've got people down the road doing 7% all-inclusive. If we increase the fees, we'll go down there. I've got the same people telling me the same thing with my clients in Texas. I've got the same thing in New Mexico. I've got the same thing in Oregon. Right now, I've got one in Oregon. Darren, they're all going to go to the cheaper agent down the road. I'm dealing with a property manager there that's got 20 years experience in what? Cheaper fees. All right? And now I'm trying to convince her we're going to do half a month letting fee and a quarter of a month lease renewal fee. She's freaking out. They're all going to go to the cheap agencies down the road. I'm about to pull the plug on that, and we are not going to move ahead because she simply cannot get her head around that we're worth it. Despite all the mindset training that we've done, she's going to hang on to, we've got to compete on fees, not on service, even though she's bloody good. All right, and I'm going to have to pull out because if I've got owners calling up saying, why have you put up my fees? And they can hear in her voice that, yeah, I know, it's a bit of a rip-off, isn't it? They can actually hear it. It's going to damage the business. And she's going to be telling me what I teach doesn't work. It's mindset. And that mindset can actually destroy. So, another one. But our owners have been with us for years and years and years and years. They've been with us for 20 years now. Hey, great peace of mind. How much more mature or vintage do you want the peace of mind? It does work. But we need to improve our service levels first, Darren, before we do that. But we should do a survey first, Darren, and see if our owners think that we suck. Well, I can tell you right now, if you send out 100 surveys and you got 100 back, which isn't possible, no one fills out surveys these days, and you had 3 owners that hate you, that's normal. That's just normal. That's normal conditions. But we should do a small sample first. Let's just do a small bit first and then see how we go from there. You know, I used to think that way, and I used to think about doing a survey first like 15 years ago, but I don't now. Because you go do 10 properties first and you got 1 kickback, you're going to get scared off. Just do everything. You know, or do stuff in 1 stage, and 2 stage, and 3 stage, and 4 stage, and 5 stage. Well, if you go to the dentist and he's identified you need to have 5 fillings, you're not going to go and do 1 filling a month. Just get the whole lot out of the way and get to the other side as soon as we can. Because I promise you it's fear, fear, fear all the time that stops this process. All the time. And it's so costly. But my property managers simply won't allow it and believe it won't work. And I've had that. I remember getting a call from a guy in outback Queensland. Darren, I've read your stuff, I've seen your newsletters, and I believe that we can do it. And we do a fee analysis. Here we can find an extra 100 grand. And we're talking now about booking the training. And then a week before, Darren, I'm sorry, we're going to have to cancel. My property manager's come in and she will resign if you come anywhere near the business. But that same property manager doesn't want discount wages, does she?
No.
She wants to have full wages and more next year when she believes that she's worth more. You see, there's too many businesses out there that allow their property managers to rule the roost. All right? We can't have that. Okay? And I've seen it too many times like that. All right, so what's typical with losses? So when we actually do a fee maximisation with an office, what do we typically see and what we lose? Do we lose property? Yes. Absolutely. Totally. About only 1 in 5 rent rolls I've seen where nothing is lost. Okay? But don't count on that. Now, if you're an agency where any roof and front door will do, just sign it up, you've taken a lot more crap. Therefore, we lose a lot more crap because you've now taken on the price-sensitive owners. That's where we actually get the loss. If you're a quality rent roll, then it could be that 2 or 3%. And if you've taken a lot of crap, it might be a bit more than that. But here is something that I see all the time, 100%, because every time we do this, we examine, we do an autopsy. Let's get all the dead properties, dead managements, put them on the table. Every time we do that, we see 66%, 2/3 to 75% of business loss was C-class landlords. They're the ones that are over-demanding, unreasonable, take up lots of your time. Whatever the rents is, they want more. Whatever your fees are, they want less. They don't put any money into the property, and they've got a crap property that just attracts a crap tenant. Are we meant to value that business? Because those, say, 3 property loss there on those low quality, low rent properties, you might get 1 quality rent through the front door, and that's actually made up for the income loss of 3, plus all the stress that's just walked out the door. So mostly we're losing just rubbish business that you weren't earning anything from anyway, or that tightwad multi-property owner with 6 units with low rent screwed you down at 5.5%. It's about letting go of those unprofitable, low quality properties, all right? But I've never seen a situation where the income gain has been exceeded by any income loss. The hole is always plugged, never ever. Otherwise, if there was too much risk, there's no way that I'll be talking about this stuff. No way, but everybody thinks it's going to damage their rent roll. Doesn't matter what country we're in. Now, what are some reasons for business loss? Well, simply they're not happy with the increasing, just won't negotiate. Feel it's time to manage it themselves or give it to a relative working in real estate. Mike, look, I'm thinking about my second cousin I haven't seen for 50 years is now selling real estate down the road. I thought I might just give the rental property to him. Stuff like that. You know, just weird, and what we call oddities. Just a weird situation. The owner has more properties with another agent. He called them up and said, hey, my agent's going to be putting up my fees. What can you do? Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. We'll do a package deal at 2.2%. Come on over. And they go to the boss, oh, we signed up another property. Woohoo. Well done, well done. See it all the time. Cheap deals, cheap package deals. Give to an agent located closer to the property because maybe they're a long distance agent and they perceive now maybe I should give it to a local agent. Maybe you missed them. Maybe they were upset about something and you increased their fees when you should have avoided them. And that was a loss because we should have just let that owner sit, not increase their fees at this time because they were upset. They generally had a problem with their peace of mind. But mainly, we're cheap in the first place. They lay awake at night thinking about the next day and who they can screw over and how they can save more money. There's a minority of people out there like that, but the majority of people don't think that way. Now, I'm just going to go through 27 fees that we see charged in Australia. But what's really important is that we'll be talking about figures and stuff like that, but we cannot agree on what fees should be because that's called collusion. And I'm really not interested in any free accommodation at a government facility. It's interesting to talk about this because when I did a seminar in Texas, in San Antonio, with 300 agents, like a conference, and we called up 500 agents in Texas in the months before that session, and we got all their fees over the phone. And I did a seminar on what fees are being charged in Texas. We had all the 300 agents. What can I say? I'm not allowed to mention a number from stage. I'm not allowed to say that 30% of agents charge this percentage, like I can here, because you're not even allowed to be seen in the illusion of discussing fees because the antitrust laws are so tight. So I can do that here. Firstly, the management fee, there's 5 different types. The first 5 fees on the 27 coming up. Okay, if you want to write down the numbers I give you, that's up to you. 5 different types of management fees. Firstly, percentage-based, the most common. They charge a percentage for all rents collected. That's the first most common management fee that we've seen. But the next one is very not so common, is a percentage based on all monies collected. Do you guys collect the water? So these agencies, they also collect the water as well and charge a percentage. So they don't say we charge 8.8%, for example, on rents collected. We charge 8.8% on all monies that we collect. It just rolls off the tongue. And guess what? You say to an owner, we charge 8.8% on rents collected. And he goes, oh, okay. And the other agent says, well, we charge 8.8% on all monies collected. And the owner goes, okay. It's whatever way you spin it. What is more profitable? Fixed rate per month. So these are agents that say we don't charge a percentage, Mr. Owner, we charge you a fixed rate per month of $100 per property, and that's it. Well, you want to make sure that you've got some good clauses in that agreement when you want to wind up that rate. I think that my opinion is let's stick by the percentage-based management fees. However, in Perth at the moment, the rents have gone back 20% in 2 years. Maybe a fixed term would have helped them at the moment, but even so, they're hurting at the moment. I only hope that will stabilise. There's more new property coming onto the market than ever before. All-inclusive fees. So we've talked about that, where instead of us charging a management fee and a letting fee and lease renewal and all these other pluses, it's actually saying, well, we're going to put them all into one easy management fee of X. But one of the issues with that can actually happen is if you've got a property and you've managed it 3 years but only had one turnover of tenant, the owner could possibly fall into the trap of, well, you know, I'm paying a letting fee each year here, and they start to lose a bit of a sense of value. But that's a bit of perception. Most owners generally don't have an issue with that, but there's another agency that I've seen that's overcome that particular issue by charging a all-inclusive plus a letting fee as well. All right, so just mixing it in, you know, mix and match. You know, all-inclusive plus one or two other fees as well, okay? That can overcome that problem. That's worked out particularly good. But again, I have to stress, do your homework, because the more unusual, though it's functional and though it works, the more unusual it is, if you apply that to your rent roll, the more negative people are going to be when you take it out to the open market. Because if it's not traditional, we're going to be negative, and that is just human nature. So you're going to have more people that are going to be negative and resistant to your idea. Alrighty, now letting process, the letting fee. In Adelaide, what can I say, generally around about the 2.2, but I am seeing more and more now wanting it down to the 1.1. Internet marketing fee. Now, generally in Adelaide, it should be getting up, you know, $165, maybe up more towards a $200. But at the end of the day, you need to, if you're going to be increasing your fees, just understand you cannot increase your fees for another 2 years. Now, if you just go and increase $1 on your monthly admin fee, and you do that across the board, congratulations. You've got yourself a whole, I don't know, 100 properties. You know, it might be an extra $1,500 a year. Congratulations, you just did a fee maximisation that got you $1,500 a year or $1,200 a year. Hey, you can't do that for another 2 years. It may as well be worth it. Getting my point? Make sure you do the maximum that you can actually do. But my point is this, if you're going to be increasing your marketing fee, what do you think is going to be the marketing fees in 2 years' time? Because you want to be covering your bills then too, knowing full well that there's a certain real estate portal out there that's just looking at you and smiling and licking their lips and thinking, oh, what can we do now? Every 6 months, they're revising your fees. So you've got to make sure your fees are adjusted to what typically could be. So in 2 years' time, you're not out of pocket. Professional photography fee. A lot of agents are charging that at cost. Video walkthrough fee. So that's where you're doing a full video walkthrough of the property. Great point of difference. If you want some actual training on how to do that, and you want to be different from your competitors instead of actually competing on discounting, so virtuallyincredible.com. And there's some training videos on there. My good friend Todd Breen, he's an international expert on using video in property management. He's put a whole heap of videos on there so you can actually learn it yourself. All right, but charge for it. Mr. Owner, we are doing a video walkthrough. We only charge $55, $110 or something like that. People see the value, they will pay. Lease preparation fee, very typical in New South Wales. Don't see it outside of that. But they're charging $33, $44 for a lease prep. So Mr. Owner, yes, we've got a letting fee, we've got an internet marketing fee, but we also do have administration costs around the lease preparation, and we charge X. No one questions it there, but it's not done outside of New South Wales. Annual letting fee. So this is an oddity, museum stuff, very typical in the Northern Territory. Instead of charging a letting fee per turnover, they just charge 1 week, for example, every year, year in, year out, regardless of movement. It's an annual letting fee. It's becoming less and less, but I have seen that charge in Alice Springs and in Darwin. Tenancy database fee. A lot of agencies are charging this, you know, but generally the regulators don't like to see you charging anything more than cost. They don't want to see you profiteering out of this particular fee. Furniture inventory fee. So if you guys get involved with the F word, which is furniture, in your rental properties, and that's the type of market that you play in, then you need to be charging for the double work when it comes to inspection, because an ingoing or an outgoing inspection is not just checking through the property, but now you've also got furniture, which technically doubles the workload and doubles all your frustration too. But you should be charging that, and that could be charged out, for example, at your hourly rate. Lease renewal fee, very typically in Adelaide. Adelaide's interesting because they generally hold out at about the 1.1 weeks lease renewal fee, but a lot more agencies are doing less. Interstate, very commonly, on the East Coast, we might be seeing half a week's rent or $100 or $55. In Perth, when I first started working there 7 years ago, hardly an agent was doing 1.1 weeks lease renewal fee, and that's what I brought in. And everyone was resistant to it. Darren, this is going to work. And bit by bit, agencies that I trained, we got it, and they're still doing it, 7 years later. But now I did a session last week called Winning Scripts that really work. I had 20 BDMs in the room. I said, okay, who here is doing a 1.1 weeks lease renewal fee? 80% of the hands went up. So over time, it's gained its momentum. People that go, oh, our competitors are charging that, well, we better charge it too. See it to believe it. And that's what's gained the momentum there. But typically, 1.1 week lease renewal fee is very typical for South Australia. And what we do find typical is that the lease renewal fee generally is half that of the letting fee, 50%. Routine inspection fee, 1/3 of agents in South Australia charge for this. And I'm seeing fees charged from $11 up to $33. Final bond inspection fee. When I was in the Riverland, I was the only one that I was aware of that was charging a final inspection fee. But it was only $33. But I just knew that the final inspections are always complicated. I mean, 10% are not complicated. 90% are a little bit complicated to a lot complicated, and you just do your head in. The amount of time and stress we put into these things, what I'm saying is easy to justify. All right, monthly admin fee. Who knows how to justify this one? Annual statement fee. Who charges for that? It's always about 1/3 of Adelaide agents. 1/3 believe they can charge it, which means they get it. 2/3 believe that it's a rip-off, so they don't. Payment disbursement fee, you're paying a plumber or electrician. Some agencies, $2.50 to $4 per disbursement. Special payment fee. Owner rings up, hi Amal, I know it's only the 10th of the month, but I need my money. Special payment. Yes, Mr. Smith, and the fee will be $22. Discouraging payments outside of the normal end of month process. Repairs and maintenance fee. There are about 2 to 3 agents in South Australia that charge the repairs and maintenance fee of around about 8 to 10% per repair. They easily justify it and they get it. And the agencies that don't believe they shouldn't be charging for it because it actually technically should be charged as part of the management fee, guess what? Those agents don't charge it because they don't believe they're worth it and they don't get it. Rent increase fee. You increase the rent by $10 a week, that's $520 a year. You might have, say, well, we take 10% of that. That's a rent increase fee. 27 fees charged across Australia. And the last one outside of normal duties fee, we've talked about that one. Alrighty, so 3 reasons why right now you're going to leave, and a lot of people won't actually do anything from this point. 1, they don't have the stability of service. The owners have to be reasonably happy or better for this to work. Number 2 reason is your mindset. You may have actually believed what I've just said, but you go back to their office and your property managers go, oh, that ain't going to bloody work. Darren's from the northeast of Adelaide. That ain't going to work in the southern part of Adelaide. Or what, mindsets are going to stop it. And it's always, generally, I find mindsets that stop it in its tracks. I also have had people that were motivated. They said, Darren, we just got some other stuff we need to do. And talk to us in 6 months' time. Well, guess what? I haven't had one agency yet that said that to me and actually did anything. All right, because there's always going to be something else that comes up. So if you're motivated, you've got the mindset, do it and do it now because it doesn't actually go backwards.